Once again, good morning to everyone. This hearing is now called to order. May I recognize the presence of my fellow seatmate block, Senator Sani Angara. And to continue, may we ask Attorney Kat to recognize our resource persons for this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the following resource persons from the Department of Energy, ASEC Gerardo Urquiza Jr., from the Department of Foreign Affairs, Maritime and Ocean Affairs Office, Ms. Maria Lourdes Montero, from the DNR Mines and Geosciences Bureau, Dr. Yolanda Aguilar, from the DNR Namria, Deputy Administrator Efren Carandang, from the UP National Institute of Geological Sciences, Mr. Mario A. Aurelio, from the Philippine National Oil Company, VP for Upstream, Raimundo Savelia, from the Philippine National Oil Company, Exploration Corporation, also represented by Raimundo Savelia, from the Department of Science and Technology, Ms. Adela Corpus of the Marine Resources Research Division, from the National Economic and Development Authority, Ms. Diane Gail Lianto and Ms. Jane Desiree F. Andal, from the Department of Tourism, Director Shalimar Tamano, from the National Security Council, Director General Hermogenes Esperon Jr., from the National Coastwatch Council, Mr. Christopher Madrigal, from the Philippine Coast Guard, Commodore Joel S. Garcia, and from Oceana, Mr. Roger Joseph Guzman and Ms. Marian Saniano, from the UP Institute of Maritime Affairs and Law of the Sea, Professor J. Batong Bakal.
Thank you very much, Attorney Kat. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As the chairman of the Senate Committee on Economic Affairs, allow me to welcome you to our second public hearing on Benham Rice. Before opening today's discussion, allow me to first give a short summary of the work that the committee has already accomplished regarding this issue. On March 7, this committee conducted its first hearing, during which several government agencies and private stakeholders provided invaluable input on the current state of research and development in the Benham Rice, areas of interest for further study and explorations, as well as risks and challenges to be faced in the short, medium, and long-term development of the area. For the sake of brevity, I will highlight a few important points to keep in mind during today's hearing. First, it is clear from our initial discussion that fully exploring the true potential of the Benham Rice will entail undertaking intensive scientific research initiatives over the next few decades. So far, the Department of Science and Technology and its partners have only been able to mount 2 research cruises in 2014 and 2016. Meanwhile, the Department of Energy and energy exploration stakeholders have no idea to rely on other than a survey of the area conducted 40 years ago, well before the Philippines had even considered staking its claim to the Benham Rice. The truth of the matter is, at this point, the data needed to make definitive conclusions about the development potential of the region simply does not exist yet. This glaring weakness is the most immediate issue that must be addressed by any legislation which seeks to develop the Benham Rice. However, based on what we do know so far, it is evident that the raw potential of the area justifies its continued exploration. Situated at the center of the biodiversity capital of the world, the Benham Rice undisputedly offers an abundance of ecological wealth that must be dutifully conserved and protected. In the short term, the most immediate benefits of exploration in the Benham Rice will be for bioprospecting. This could have a sizable impact on the Philippine pharmaceutical industry, as breakthroughs in this field could serve as the catalyst for the development of new, less expensive medicines to treat illnesses across the world. Meanwhile, there are exciting long-term energy prospects at the Benham Rise that we simply cannot ignore. Although the technology is still in the experimental phases, early research on methanized gas hydrates found in the seabed of the Benham Rise show that it could be the fuel of tomorrow. As the world supply of conventional fossil fuel continues to dwindle down, intensive research in this field today may very well be the key to Philippine energy security tomorrow. Of course, we must keep in mind that the Philippine legal framework on the maritime zones, maritime exploration, ecological protection, and other related subjects must be expanded to meet the changing needs of the time. As science and technology advance, so too must the laws of the land. Therefore, it is imperative for us to build a solid legal foundation upon which innovation and discovery in the Benham Rise and other Philippine marine territories may flourish. With all of this in mind, let us turn our attention to the measure that we'll be taking up again today. Senate Bill number 312, authored by fellow seatmate block member Senator Sonny Angara, seeks the creation of the Benham Rise Development Authority. Attached to the National Economic Development Authority, the BRDA will be mandated to spearhead intensive scientific research and exploration of the Benham Rise, identify its economic potential, and take the lead in formulating and implementing a development roadmap aligned with the country's Philippine Development Plan. All in all, the BRDA will be the permanent lead agency tasked to head the government's effort to undertake a holistic and sustainable approach to the development of the resource-rich Benham Rise. The purpose of this hearing will be to collect input from public and private stakeholders to shore up weaknesses and gaps in the bill's provisions, focusing specifically on defense, biodiversity conservation, and the management of marine and energy resources. The full potential of the Benham Rise will take at least a generation to explore and develop. In all honesty, most of us in this room won't be around anymore to reap the benefits. Indeed, the development of the Benham Rise is a gift that we shall pass on to future generations of Filipinos, an important and meaningful legacy that will endure long after our generation is gone. In this context, allow me to reiterate the main thrust of this hearing, the formulation of a long-term, holistic, and sustainable strategy on the exploration and development of the Benham Rise for the benefit of future generation of Filipinos. One important aspect of this strategy are the defense protocols that must be put in place to defend our sovereign rights over the Benham Rise, which will be duly covered. However, I must remind everyone that defense is just one current in a sea of issues that must be tackled today. There is much at stake in developing the Benham Rise, and the important work that remains to be done should not be unduly sidelined by political undertones. With that, once again, thank you very much for participating in this very important meeting, and I ask the lead principal author if you have any opening statement.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, I think we're looking forward to hearing from our distinguished resource persons, but thank you and for prioritizing the bill, firstly, and secondly for that nice compendium or summary of the reasons for the bill. Basically, it's to be proactive, for the state to be proactive in safeguarding the national interest. In 2009, we were awarded the rights to Benham Rise, and we have sovereign rights over the area. So I think number one of the goals is to have an inventory of what to know what we're actually safeguarding or protecting, and of course a lot of that is dependent upon the level of science and our research and development, and that's something we have to push forward in a concerted manner Mr. Chairman. And second is to clarify the legal regime of Benham rice. And thirdly, to comply with the provisions of the Constitution, which state that the state must protect the nation's marine wealth, and definitely Benham rice comprises the nation's marine wealth, and safeguard and ensure that its enjoyment, the enjoyment of the benefits from Benham rice, accrue to our citizens. So it's about protection of the national interest. Of course, as we know from joint ventures with respect to Malampaya, it does not preclude us, Mr. Chair, from entering into joint ventures which we perceive to be advantageous to the country. No? So thank you. I look forward to hearing from our distinguished panel of experts. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Angara. May I ask the body to turn their attention to the screen. Last time, during the last hearing, courtesy of the Oceana NGO, left us with a very nice video that will basically give us an idea of how Benham rice looks like.
This is essentially an unexplored frontier, the Philippines.
This was part of the high seas, unclaimed and unprotected.
To this territory given to the Philippines by the United Nations in 2012, and that it's largely unexplored.
There was enough evidence to show that it was connected to the Philippines geologically and geomorphologically, therefore was part of our continental shelf.
Is an area as big as Luzon. I'm not mistaken, 13 million hectares.
Benham Bank is composed of mesophotic reefs, which are reefs that are found 50 to 150 meters deep. They said 100% coral cover, and I'm like, that doesn't exist. 100% is crazy. And there was 100% coral covers.
There's a lot of deep sea that occupies us. All our sea maps have coordinates, and all of those sea maps have eager people to study them. Would you really have?
Well, surprisingly, each site that we've gone to has a sort of like its own characteristics. The very first site we landed on was just covered with coral, trading coral sheets just overlapping one another.
The corals that live here have the potential to reveal a new species that's never been found anywhere else. The spawning fish that live here actually have the potential to help recover fisheries across the country.
There are studies that say that this could be possible refuge of fish that are found in the shallow parts of the reef. What are the responses of this system that are far off, for example, to sea level rise, desertification, or bleaching? Are the bleaching events here?
It would be great to be able to identify a place where recovery can begin to rebuild oceans in the Philippines. The Philippines, in general, is at the center of marine biodiversity on the planet. However, there's also heavy fishing pressure. And because of that, the fish in the Philippines are getting smaller. It's getting harder and harder for fishermen to make a living.
You know, there's appalling poverty, especially among fisher folks, who are considered as the poorest in the poor. So you cannot possibly restore fisheries and make them abundant without ensuring that the marine ecosystems that they live at are healthy.
Benham could be a source to recover those fisheries. We also may have even more biodiversity than we know of. The fishing here is able to continue into the distant future to feed many people and help the Philippines continue to grow.
For me, it's a survival issue. They can be seen as our adaptation strategy make the ecosystem resilient. So it has a better way of coping with the impacts of climate change.
If we have intact coral reef areas at the eastern side,
It can help also buffer
from climate change.
It is the perfect time for our decision makers working with stakeholders, citizens, to craft that long-term framework.
So, in the meantime, we need to make sure that these resources, especially the fragile living resources in this area, are adequately protected so that they can also be for the benefit of future generations.
It's not only the natural resources that we are protecting, it's better protecting everybody.
It is very important. And not just to the Philippines, just to our fisher folks, but to the rest of the world.
The biological resources that are in Benham Rise, we can consider this as a common wealth for mankind.
Benham Bank, a very significant area, not just in the Philippines, but in the entire world, should have the legal protection that it deserves. Benham Bank is a very special place. As stewards, we should do something to protect it. Not just for us, but for the generation that depend on us to ensure that we have a better planet place to live in. And we have this special place in our own territory, and we hope Benham will inspire us to do something. For Benham, for the country, and for the world.
Right, thank you very much, and thank you very much, courtesy of the video is courtesy of Oceana, the NGO. Next hearing ho natin, dyan na ho tayo mag-hearing raw sa Benham Rise. But today is, actually we decided to conduct another hearing precisely to understand the national security issues as well as defense issues relating to Benham Rise. And with that, may we ask Director General Esperon to give us a briefing on this issue.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and the other members of the Committee on Economic Affairs. We thank you for inviting us to the Senate Committee hearing with the view of crafting a cohesive executive legislative strategy for the long-term security and development of Benham Rise. As we are all aware, our Philippine government has sovereign rights over the 24 million hectare Benham Rise area. Under Article 77 of the UN UNCLOS, the Philippines has sole right to explore and exploit the natural resources, to include oil, gas, and mineral resources in Benham Rise. Based on UNCLOS 2012, a coastal state exercises sovereign rights over the continental shelf for the purpose of exploring it and exploiting its natural resources. It is exclusive in the sense that if the Philippines does not explore the continental shelf or exploit its natural resources, no other country may undertake such activities without the express consent of the Philippines. President Duterte has given instructions for more patrols in the Benham Rise area to guard against illegal activities in the area and to effectively demonstrate control over the territory. We at the National Security Council continue to coordinate with other Philippine relevant departments, agencies, and instrumentalities on this matter to determine appropriate executive courses of actions in upholding our territorial integrity. We have, in addressing the Benham Rise, we of course know the array of government agencies that have a role in the Benham Rise, including the departments of my colleagues here, DNR, Agriculture, Transportation, Interior, Energy, Department of Foreign Affairs, the National Defense, and of course the National Security Council, whose function is to advise the President with respect to the integration of domestic, foreign, and military policies relating to national security. It also serves as the President's principal arm for coordinating these policies among various government departments and agencies in matters involving the national security. May I inform the Chairman that we have, of course, convened the National Security Council last July 27, 2016. I think we have not convened the Security Council for so many years. But aside from the National Security Council, we have been convening also the Executive Committee of the National Security Council. The first of which was last December 12, where we substantially discussed the Benham Rise issue. And in the subsequent Executive Council Committee meeting of the National Security Council last March 13, we have further discussed the matter. And in that meeting also, we have already, the President has approved already the national security policy, which involves further pursuing our national security and interest, including the protection of our territories, of course, especially Benham Rice in this case. In the protection and preservation of national territory, we are also expressing our adherence to the sense of urgency and national importance, as you do in the Senate, and therefore I have come here to express our solidarity with the Senate in coming up with the necessary actions so that we could enjoy what is in the Benham Rice for the welfare of the Filipino people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, General Espron. I just have a few questions, General, and these are quite basic, just to lay the premise regarding national security concerns as well as defense concerns. Meron ba akong ibang claimants dito po sa Benham Rice? No? Meron bang ibang bansa or ibang entities who are claiming here in Benham Rice?
Mr. Chair, as far as we know, when the United Nations awarded to us the Benham Rice, it was absolute. In fact, it's not only confined to the 200-mile EEZ, but it went beyond. The extended continental shelf was recognized to be part of the Philippines, and so the area really is 11 million hectares inside the 200-mile EEZ, plus another 13 million hectares beyond our EEZ. We are not aware of any other claimants, and other nations have expressed recognition of our sovereign rights over the area.
Will there be a potential claimants in the future, or potential threat of being claimed in the future? Meron bang mga ganyan na
We
nakikita
don't
kayo?
see, there could be, but we don't see any right now. We must also, I think we are also aware of the pronouncements of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China, saying that they recognize our sovereign rights over the Benham Rice.
So wala kayo nakitang banta in the future na pwedeng mag-claim or pwedeng kunin itong lugar na ito?
I don't see it in the near future. But as we look at the resources of the area, fisheries being one of the resources that we have, there is always a claim to an equal right, provided they are given permit by the coastal state, meaning the Philippines. The other countries may fish in the area, provided they are given the permission by the Republic of the Philippines.
What would be the best strategy or approach in terms of preventing future claims or future incursions, in your opinion, General?
From the point of view of national security, I would recommend the show of flag in the area, meaning patrols, as has been directed, within our capabilities should be exercised and performed. But the more telling and more permanent exercise of sovereign rights over the area would be development and exploration, and later on development of the area.
Going back, General, dun sa mga what can be done, what can be conducted in the EEZ as well as the ECS, just for the information of everyone, ano ba ho yung mga pwedeng gawin ng mga foreign vessels in our EEZ as well as ECS?
Well, from our territorial baseline, 12 nautical miles on outward to the sea, freedom of navigation starts. Freedom of navigation starts. But For those who are passing through our territorial waters, they must not conduct activities that are inimical to the Republic. We can impose, we have absolute rights in our territorial waters. The adjacent waters of another 12 nautical miles is again an area for freedom of innocent passage and freedom of navigation, onwards to the 200-mile economic zone. So indeed, they have all the right to pass through our waters in the name of freedom of navigation and in the name of innocent passage. But they may not exploit our resources in the seabed, in the continental shelf.
How do you define generally yung innocent passage? No?
Innocent passage is passing from your point of origin to your point of destination by the safest means and route. And if you have to pass through archipelagic waters or through territorial waters, then you may, in the name of innocent passage and freedom of navigation.
In the light of what just happened, no? The incident with the Chinese vessel that reportedly passed through, is that considered, that action by the Chinese vessel, is that considered innocent passage?
Yes, scientific surveys are generally considered benign in the sense that when they go on research, they ask permission if they do it within our 200-mile economic zone. Once granted the permission, they are also asked to provide us results of such research activities. When they pass through our territorial as well as EEZ waters, they can invoke freedom of navigation and innocent passage.
Chinese vessel po, dumaan lang ho siya.
Dumaan galing sa taas at pumunta sa kaliwa papuntang kanan papuntang Benham Rise.
That's on record, dumaan ho siya, and that's established that it was an innocent passage. Yung,
Yes, by the passing through our waters, that's could be part of innocent passage and freedom of navigation.
In some of the reports na nabasa ko po no, sa internet, I think the Chinese government said that they conducted maritime research, scientific research in that area. So, is that part of innocent passage?
They stayed for several days, months, in fact.
In fact, just to cut you off lang, General, no, I think Secretary Lorenzano also mentioned that they were there for 3 months.
For 3 months. Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm reading his statements correct. Parang hindi ho sila diretso yung pagdaan, no? Medyo lumiko-liko, no? And that led him to the conclusion that it was not, no, innocent passage. So, what is the official prognosis of our defense entities?
That's right. That 3 months of lingering in the area is not really simply innocent passage or freedom of navigation. Research was conducted, but it could not be established where it was conducted, whether it was outside the EEZ or not, because they went down ultimately. In fact, they offloaded one patient in Surigao, and they asked for permission for that offloading. The matters of research are something else. Just like Oceana, they went on research, but this is well coordinated. So, I would say that the problem really there is if researches would benefit all of us, then we must allow it. And in fact, we are supposed to even join them in the researches. We should join them in their vessels, but there is the problem there, the coordinative mechanisms.
When exactly, no, was that ship in our EEZ and ECS? Ano yung time frame niya? Kailan po yung 3 months na yon? I know it's last year, no?
Yeah,
Last
it's
year.
September, October, more or less between September to November.
Was there an official analysis na kung what type of activities were they conducting there, or kasi
We are profiling the ship that went there. We have the name and we have the name of the ship. It was from November to January, by the way. We have the name of the ship. It could conduct biological as well as hydrographic surveys. But we have no indications that it was surveying what is in the seabed as of now.
So my next question leads to, ano po yung protocols natin when this type of activities is being conducted within our EEZ?
There has to be coordination.
And that's well spelled out. That's an official.
It's in the provisions of UNCLOS.
And well spelled out ho yan kung saan pupunta itong mga bansa para kumuha ng permiso.
Yes. It would be with the Department of Foreign Affairs.
And where will that start?
Oh,
You have that permit. For example po, no, I am a research NGO. Where will I go to get that permit?
it has to be government to government first, so it starts with their Ministry of Foreign Affairs, going to our Department of Foreign Affairs.
Foreign Affairs, DFA is the step 1
Yes.
for this type of activities.
Mr. Chair.
And in this case po, from what I read in the papers, everyone seems to be quite surprised when this came out. Was there any official requests from that Chinese vessel to conduct research in this area?
I would refer you to Director Montero of Department of Foreign Affairs. But from my point of view, I'd like to say that the exercise of giving permits can also be exercised by the President, whether it's done verbally or not.
And assuming it was, assuming lang, no, from what I read again, no, it was not clear whether they were given permits or not. Was there a breach in national security? From your standpoint, being our national security
There
chief?
is a potential breach, but it being a research ship which did not conduct any soundings or researches on the seabed, I would not put it in the security fence, but rather on the economic side of things.
What will be a recourse for the National Security Council
Well,
when this type of breaches happen? Ano po yung mga dapat gawin? No?
We can send through our mechanisms. We can send not verbal, but may I say that after the visit of the President to China, the mechanisms are being placed, getting into place. Joint mechanisms are getting into place, so we expect better arrangements in the future.
Generals, ang DND po hindi we don't have any representative from the DND right now, no? So, but I would like to again direct some questions. This is actually for the DND, but I don't know if you can shed light on this. Apparently, I read also in the papers that during one of the patrols there was a drone that flew by, you know, an unknown drone that flew by. I don't know if that is validated or not validated. I just want to get your comment on that, whether that is true or not true, or
We have the initial report on a drone that was passing by the BRP, one of our Coast Guard cutters, that was going to the Benham rice area. We are getting the report on that so that we could discuss it in the what we call the security cluster of the cabinet. based on that report,
But that is true, General, na may drone talaga.
there were reports, and well, when our troops make the report, we would like to believe that there is truth in it. But we want to get the full report before, and so that this could be discussed in the national security cluster of the cabinet.
But in your expert opinion, General, itong mga drone, di ba, they need to be launched somewhere. There must be a base, no, nearby. I don't think it can fly very far. Where will that base be?
Oh well,
Is it in
drones
the
can be
Philippines?
mounted from the land. Drones can be mounted
So,
from ships.
So potentially it came from the Philippines, or saan ho nang tingin niyo ho, saan ho nang galing yan? I mean, I don't think it will.
I have not, to be honest about it, I have not seen the report on the exact location of BRP Alcaraz. So I could not tell how far it was from our land. But if it was reported by our own troops, why would they report it if it is coming from friendly troops, meaning ours? So if it is not necessarily unfriendly, but another entity who would like to look at the activities or the patrol activities of Alcaraz, then it could have been launched from a nearby area.
And in your expert opinion again, General, ano yung objective nitong drone? What was it doing? I mean,
Well, drones are simply some drones are meant to be imagery equipment, so they could be taking pictures.
all right.
May I ask
Yeah,
on a related, ask the General, because it strikes me that legally it's quite a fine line between allowable and non-allowable activities. No, you mentioned biological and hydrological surveys, which I presume are surveys on water currents, etc., and fish in the area, which are allowable activities. But as a practical matter, Mr. Chair, would we know if the foreign vessel was actually conducting other activities as a practical matter?
As a practical matter, to be really practical about it, when you have an EEC that is as big as what we have, on the left and on the right, and on the north and down south, then you would require to be able to have awareness of everything that's going there. You would need a strong Navy, strong Coast Guard, strong fisheries, strong Air Force. Meaning, well, we have capabilities. We just got for the Navy the TC-90s. Those could be used, but we are still procuring the sensors for this. We have our nomads, which are giving us some good pictures. But imagine an area that would be something like 4 times the land area of the Philippines. And longer than the territorial area from north to south. So you would need a lot of awareness capability, surveillance capability. We don't even have satellites. We are one big country with big EEC that doesn't have imagery satellites, much more communication satellites. So these are things that we should build up those capabilities, if only to have a better view and therefore management of our resources.
Mr. Chair, thank you for that. General, could we say for certain, for example, that the foreign vessel was not conducting seismic surveys? Could we rule that out with certainty? Or our
From the
capacities would...
from the initial profiling of the ship, it's not really for seismic surveys.
difference, for example, of a ship? I'm not aware, I'm sorry, about these matters, Mr. Chair. But what would a ship that would be doing biological and hydrological, how would it differ from a ship that is doing seismic surveys?
One would be the equipment. maybe we should refer the matter to Professor
Batong Bakal.
Bakal or the
Yeah.
PNOC.
Yeah, perhaps you could enlighten or educate us as to, because we are aware of the legal regime, no? But as a practical matter, how can you actually tell the difference between a ship that's, I mean, because we're well aware that China has ships which are Coast Guard or civilian in nature, but they're equipped to do military at any point. They're ready to engage, you know. So there's that duality in their capacities, no. So that might be present also in with respect to these other vessels, no. So that's basically where I'm going. Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I can only tell about a seismic vessel. A seismic vessel usually travels in a straight line. They go back and forth in a grid, and they tow sometimes a 10-kilometer long streamer. That is the recorder, what we call the hydrophones. And they travel very slowly, around 6 knots. So that is a seismic vessel. And normally they have what we call a chase boat to...
That describes the movements of the seismic vessel. But yung dimensions, what are the dimensions?
The vessel probably 30 meters long.
30 meters long.
It's not big.
Yeah, so it could easily be a ship that is doing biological and hydrological surveys. Could easily be a seismic vessel. Is that possible?
Yeah, because remember these are streamers, and you can hear the sound because they.
It's a streamer. I'm sorry.
It's a long cable that is being towed, and it's about 10 kilometers long, and you will hear there's some because they emit sound. We need the sound to generate the energy.
Yeah.
So the sound is compressed.
So you would know. You would know because it's a 10-kilometer.
Yes, you would know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Angara. General, any recommendations as to what are the improvements that we can make, no, in order to be very clear in terms of allowing this type of researches to happen in our territory? May mga recommendations ba ho kayo?
We are in current discussions with the Department of Foreign Affairs as to how we should be processing the applications for researches. But first and foremost, it must not just be giving permits, but it must be also being able to go with the research because we are supposed to join them. So we must develop we must have more of our scientists. There are many brave souls in the Marine Science Institute, but they need more. They need more. What would you do if you were invited by 5 research agencies and you would have nobody to place there? The natural reaction would be, hold, we cannot join you in the research. So how do you fulfill the requirements for a man from your side joining their ship? So we certainly have to develop our own research capabilities, plus our methods of and capabilities for projection in the area, so that we will know what they're doing there.
Because from what we have personally, from what I've read in the reports, that there's quite a confusion, on how this ship came about, without the necessary permits and protocols, or undertaking the necessary protocols. And that's why earlier I asked you if this type of confusion may lead to a breach in national security. And my next question is, how do we improve that, to avoid confusion like this being aired? How do we improve and or streamline the system and protocol?
Well, as I said, after the visit of the President to China, there are many coordinative mechanisms that are being put into place, Coast Guard to Coast Guard, and agriculture, other things, I think through those means we will have better coordinations. It would also help us if we could develop our awareness capability of the two sides, the west, east and the west. As I said, we have no imagery satellites. We are dependent on other countries, our traditional allies, so to say.
Generally, itong pagtayo ng BRDA, Development Authority, do you think this will improve the protocols and streamline the process?
Just like in any organization where so many people are involved, I think coordinating committee would help. But first and foremost, I think we should know what we really have in the area. I think the first priority should be organizing maritime scientific researches in the area. And as you have said, since we do not know yet what is in the area, we might no longer be in these positions before we know it. And for the younger people like the chairman and Senator Angara, you might be there to still enjoy the fruits of your hearings. We also hope to join you anyway, but we have to know what's in there. So let us strengthen our research capabilities, our awareness capabilities. Like now, I will tell you that we have good images that we are getting on both sides with the use of our old nomad planes. But we manage. We have good images as good as what you now see in the Inquirer today. And yet our planes are old. We have new ones, but once we have the sensors put into these things, we could help. We have ships from DNR, we have ships from fisheries, we have ships from Coast Guard. So with the marching orders that they are getting now, I hope we will be more aware of what's happening around us.
Makakatulong ba ito, General, itong BRDA sa national security concerns natin in that area?
Mr. Chair, I am one believer who in the dictum that security and development should go together. In fact, our national security policy, which we are coming out with right now, comes together with the Philippine Development Plan of 2017 to 22. Tandem ito. So we would be very honored to partner with you in looking at the Benham rise, whether we start from Aurora or from Isabela.
Mr. Chair, may I
Go ahead.
May I ask something related? I'm happy with the statements of General Esperon regarding looking at the security and economic development aspects side by side. That's very much a good attitude. Yung tanong ko lang, because the bill is still at the committee level, which government agencies would take the lead in knowing what's there and surveying it? Because it seems to be that it's clear from the first hearing and this hearing na talagang lahat ng ahensya may interest dyan eh. DNR, DND, the UP for research, the research agencies also have an interest in it. But dun sa tanong naman na as to what do we do in terms of action, sino kikilos? Ang sagot naging sagot natin by default because of bureaucratic inertia is none of the above. When the correct answer, Mr. Chair, should really be all of the above. Diba? So, ang tanong natin ngayon, while we're talking, who's going to be acting? Yun ang tanong, diba? Who's going to be acting on behalf of the government? Is it the DND who's going to take the lead? Is it the DNR? Or are we, because nagtitinginan tayo, and we lose time? Because time is the most important element, Mr. Chair, really, in all of this.
Thank you, Senator Sani. The General Esperon, I will leave you for now, but I think we will go back to you because we will now move to to the Department of Foreign Affairs, since you mentioned earlier that the protocol starts with them. And nasaan po ang DFA? Ayun. So, ma'am, again, going back to the original question earlier, no, the process and the protocols, when this type of research vessel intends to conduct research in our EEZ, no, saan mo sila unang dapat pumunta?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. The Department of Foreign Affairs usually receive applications for marine scientific research either through the resident embassies here of the country or the researching state, or it can be coursed through our embassy in the host country. Let's say the requesting state is China. It could be the application could be sent through our embassy in Beijing, and then it is sent to the home office here in Manila. And we have an interagency process for this. We circulate the application to the concerned agencies, and then when we receive their comments, we try to evaluate the applications vis-a-vis the comments of the technical agencies, and then later on, after we have gathered all the comments of the agencies, we notify the researching state on the decision based on the inputs of these agencies.
So, pupunta ho sila sa embassy natin to signify their intention.
Sir, if sometimes po the MSR application is filed through the Foreign Ministry in the researching state. So that could be sent through the embassy, or it can be sent through their embassy here in Manila if they have a resident embassy here.
And that will trigger the process.
Yes, sir.
And what else? What are the steps? Is DFA the sole agency that will approve this, or dadaan pa ho yan sa ibang?
Actually, sir, the department is like the coordinator because we receive the request from the researching state, and then we send it to the technical agencies for their evaluation. And then they send it back to us, and then after we have gathered the comments or inputs of the agencies, we notify the researching state of the results, whether it's a grant or a denial of their MSR application.
Okay, and then ultimately you will release that grant or denial.
Yes, sir. And it's done through a note verbal or a diplomatic note.
So it starts with DFA and ends with DFA.
Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate to us what are the activities allowed within our EEZ and ECS? Kung ano yung mga activities pwede nalang gawin? This is research, no? In terms of research.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, the term marine scientific research is not fully defined in UNCLOS. So the conduct of which is though subject to certain conditions in UNCLOS, but largely also with the conditions of the Philippines being the coastal state. So under our laws, sir, we have certain restrictions as to the study of our resources. For instance, exploration of our resources cannot be done under the guise of marine scientific research.
So MSR pwede, marine scientific research
Yes, sir,
pwede.
strictly for scientific research purposes, but not for exploration, because that's governed by certain parameters under our constitution and domestic law.
And sa ECS, it's also the same.
Yes, sir. As far as the seabed is concerned, sir.
As far as the seabed.
Yes, sir.
For example, if someone wants to do seismic exploration or seismic survey, can that be allowed?
So, anything that would involve our natural resources would be subject to our laws, sir.
To our laws.
Yes, sir.
And it's still DFA yan, or Marina?
Of course, sir, there are certain agencies that have the mandate over, let's say, our energy resources, also the DNR. So we coordinate with these technical agencies, sir.
But it starts with you again.
Yes, sir, with respect to the receipt of the MSR application from the researching state.
Okay. But if it's, going back, no, if it's a seismic survey, it's still with DFA yan.
Yes, if we receive the request, sir, being the representative of the country with respect to our international relations, we do receive all types of documents, sir, all types of requests from a foreign country. And we always refer to the technical agency, sir, when it refers to a particular, let's say, a matter that falls under the jurisdiction of that technical agency.
And then you also release that permit to undertake seismic surveys. Sa inyo rin manggagaling yan.
So we
Or is
always
it DOE?
so when it already comes to, I think, more technical considerations, like they also have a process for the grant of certain permits as to as a precursor to the grant of a service contract, or sir, that we always refer to the technical agencies on that.
To the DOE.
Yes, sir, when it comes to energy exploration.
Going back to, again, no, kanina I asked about the MSR conducted by the Chinese vessel. Did that go through the protocol of DFA in terms of allowing MSRs in that area, in that EEZ?
The recent movement, sir, of the Chinese vessels in the area of the Benham Rise, we are not sure as to the conduct of the activities there, whether they are actually in the nature of marine scientific research, because we do not have the actual details. In the past, we have received applications for marine scientific research in that area from China, and we have consulted the technical agencies. And so far, with respect to the requests referring to the Benham Rise area that we have received in 2016, 2015, these requests have been denied, sir.
2015?
Based on the consensus of the agencies involved.
From the same entities?
Sir,
They requested in 2015 na deny sila. Same entities ito na doon for 3 months?
Sir, I cannot speak with accuracy on the entity itself. I can only say with accuracy as to the requesting state.
The applicant is the same?
China, sir.
But China is very big.
Yes, sir.
Marami silang mga institutes and schools.
Yes, sir. Right now, I cannot say with accuracy the exact institutes because we do receive...
Yung nag-apply nung 2015, saka yung nag-research ng 3 months, pareho lang silang entities?
Sir, I cannot say with accuracy the entity itself, but I can say with accuracy that China has requested for marine scientific research in the Benham Rise.
In 2015, what was the reason for the denial?
The usual reason, sir, for the denial is the non-involvement of Filipino scientists in the conduct of the marine scientific research.
So kung walang Filipino scientists, we don't allow.
Yes, sir.
And that is a absolute requirement.
This is part of the conditions of the Philippines, as well as it is included in the conditions in UNCLOS, sir.
Mm-hmm. And itong recent incident, from what I hear from you, did not pass the proper protocol, the proper process to conduct MSRs.
So we have received applications in the past, but for this recent movement in Benham Rise, sir, we could not say if this is part of that application because we have one that's pending, and we have received in the past requests or applications for marine scientific research that have already been denied. Yes, sir.
So again, no, ito ba ay, since it didn't pass through the DFA channel, is this considered a breach in our protocols?
Sir, if I may say, breach may be a strong word because we don't have the complete details. We would like to note that, sir, the ocean is quite vast. It's divided into different zones. And in these different zones, of course, different states have also certain rights that they could exercise, like freedom of navigation, so, or innocent passage. It depends on the maritime zone. So there's a lot of information that we need to be able to actually say if indeed there was a breach.
In this incident, I think the statements were quite clear, no, by the different government agencies, that this action might be research instead of, might be surveys and research instead of innocent passage. Do you, in your own opinion, no, as part of the DFA, is this a breach in protocol? Now, this particular incident.
Pardon me, Mr. Chair. As I said, at this point, given that we don't have the exact information as to coordinates and what they were actually doing there, I would not be in a position to say that a breach has actually occurred.
What's the reason of the note verbal?
Oh, we sent note verbal, sir, actually last year.
Yes.
For some
Was it
movement.
last year or itong incident?
Last year and this year as well, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Itong incident, merong note verbal. I read it also.
yes, sir.
What was the intention of that note verbal?
Sir, we also use the diplomatic note as a way to seek clarification
Right.
from another country. So,
Because tingin nyo may breach nga, diba?
so in that way, we will be able to determine the facts and
There's a possibility of a breach.
so we will be able to have a better evaluation of the situation.
Yeah. So any reply? Any reply from that note verbal?
Sir, I'm not aware of an actual note that has been delivered to the department. However, if you've noticed, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China has given statements on the Benham rice and that they recognize the rights of the Philippines in the area.
So is that an official document reply from China?
Sir, I will have to check if we did receive a printed form or a written form of a reply. Although we have actually
Diba
received...
tinanong nyo kung bakit may barko doon, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Ano yung sinabi nila?
Sir, as I recall, there has been also a meeting between our acting secretary and ambassador of China, and certain matters that we sought clarification, I think, have also been
So what is
discussed in
it
this
nga? So what is the clarification? Anong what
sir,
was clarified?
Yes, sir. And they reiterated the position of China that they do recognize the rights of the Philippines in the Benham rice area.
Yeah, but what was the ship doing there? That is the bottom line, di ba?
Sir, as they have also reiterated that they were exercising freedom of navigation in the area.
So and you believe that they are exercising freedom of navigation there? Dumaan lang sila doon. There was no research conducted in that area. it was innocent passage?
Sir, the conduct of the research would depend on, of course, the evaluation of the technical agency. Although a vessel can pass and exercise freedom of navigation in that part of the Benham rise. So passing through, sir, is an exercise of freedom of navigation.
But my question is, DFA believes that they only pass through REEZ.
Sir,
Because it's an accepted justification.
Sir, the conduct of freedom of navigation, of course, is allowed under.
Oo nga, but
yes, but as
DFA
to-
accepted it. That's what I want to know lang.
Sir, we don't have the full information as to whether they did conduct scientific research in the area without our permission, because just by, let's say, passing through and let's say passing through slowly by itself doesn't necessarily mean that they were conducting scientific research. That's not permissible. But
with the
on that,
recent pronouncement of our Defense Secretary, did it prompt you to inquire from the Secretary whether this is an innocent basic research or an innocent passage?
Yes, sir. We do receive reports and we have interagency consultation with the technical agencies. However, I'm not in a position right now to say that there was a conduct of a scientific research that violates UNCLOS or our laws, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, Chair, again, I think we go back to the point that do we really have the capacity to know, to distinguish between allowable and non-allowable activities? Because it's mentioned by the General that they conducted biological and hydrological surveys, which are part of the right of innocent passage, I think. They don't need our permission to do those. But as to the other, it seems to me, as a non-technical person, it seems a gray area. Kellen, when is that line crossed? Do we have the capacity to know when that line is crossed? I think that's the important. And perhaps looking forward, the General should tell us, he's already mentioned satellite capacities. What are I think more important than what the agency we're creating here is how are we capacitating the state? How are we strengthening the state to ensure that the benefits of Benham Rise accrue at the swiftest time to, and I guess that would be the next question I would pose to the body, Mr. Chair, is what is the best approach? I note as a backgrounder that the RDFA, the executive director has mentioned that all the requests for research were turned down by a foreign state. But that was under the previous administration, and obviously there's a change of approach under the present administration. So Mr. Chair, what I would ask the body, what is the most efficacious, what is the most efficient approach so that the country can actually benefit from Benham Rise? I think, is it joint venture? Is it building up our capacity and doing it ourselves? Is it a combination of these things? I think that's the most important thing that should come out of this hearing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Sani. One final question to Director Montero. Do you have any recommendation as to how to improve the process of undertaking research for maritime scientific activities? Meron ba kayong recommendation? So definitely we will see more of this when we put up this authority. No? Meron ba kayong suggestion on how to improve that and make sure that it's clear and it doesn't violate any of our laws or international laws? May mga suggestion ba kayo?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I think one way for us to have better monitoring would be to build the capacity of our technical agencies. We have very good scientists. We have very good technical people, but I think they share a common experience with respect to the need for resources, with respect to equipment as well as training and additional personnel. The Department of Foreign Affairs can work on the diplomatic aspects, sir, but we do need the inputs of our technical agencies. We don't have that capacity, and we do rely a lot on our technical agencies. So, in a nutshell, I would like to say that our recommendation is really to somehow strengthen our technical agencies, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll probably go back to you as we go along to the DFA, but we'll go to our next resource person, which is the NEDA, who is going to be the lead agency in terms of putting up and administering the BRDA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me read our position. In general, we recognize the intent of the measures to have a sustained scientific study and exploration of Benham rice to help in identifying and harnessing its full economic potential through the development of management framework and roadmap for the area. These measures are deemed supportive of ensuring the sustainable use of the Benham rice, which is known to have high biodiversity, deep sea mining, and energy potential, among other. It hosts commercially important fish species, including several tuna species, and has also been one of the country's traditional fishing ground. However, we deem it important to further review and deliberate the advantages and disadvantages of the creation of a new agency, the BRDA, considering the goal of the government to rationalize the bureaucracy as embodied in the Executive Order Number 366. We note that the proposed mandates of the BRDA may duplicate already existing institutions and mechanisms for the coastal and marine and maritime sector. For instance, the National Coastwatch system and its council, established in 2011 under the office of the President by virtue of Executive Order 57, is mandated to serve as the central interagency mechanism for coordinated and coherent approach on maritime issues and security operation towards enhancing the governance in the current country's maritime domain. It may be noted that the members of the Council are as follows. It is chaired by the Executive Secretary and is composed of the following members: Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of National Defense, Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Secretary of Interior and Local Government, Secretary of Justice, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Finance, Secretary of Environment and Natural Resources, and Secretary of Agriculture. In relation to Benham rice, the National Coastwatch Council has initiated the development of a national research program for the area through the creation of an interagency technical working group. In addition, several measures have also been initiated by the Bureau of Biodiversity Management of the DNR and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources of the Department of Agriculture to develop the Benham rice as a marine managed area, which aims to define multiple use and non-use zones in the area based from the baseline review and assessment of its resources. In the review, an in-depth assessment should be undertaken on how to make use of existing bodies that are already working in the development of Benham rice. The assessment is suggested to look into the operational capacities of the relevant agencies, offices, or institutions with respect to their scope, functions, and mandates, and identify the measures that are needed to address the gap. In this regard, the creation of a strong advisory committee or technical working group may be considered to provide the guidance and direction on the Benham rice development. We also suggest to identify the actions that would help strengthen the presence of Philippine Coast Guard and the Philippine Navy for patrolling and security needs of the area. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. I think you mentioned earlier the National Coast Watch Council. No?
Yes, sir.
Present rin sila today, si Chief Madrigal. Sir, any opinion or suggestion regarding BRDA since you were mentioned earlier? that
I have, sir, a very comprehensive position paper that I would like to
Sige
relay
po,
to the body.
sige po.
Is it my turn to speak?
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay,
I'll
thank you
go
very
to you
much.
right away.
Good
because-
morning, Senator Gatchalan. Good morning, Senator Angara. Now, I would like to begin siguro by putting things in the proper context. Now, I'd like to call, the term that I use for people I work with in meetings, interagency meetings, is maritime community. So most of the people here are familiar with me and I am familiar with them. So, and then of course, for the benefit of the public sitting in attendance with us now, I would like to just give you a very, very short introduction of what the National Coast Watch system is. So, the National Coast Watch system is the country's central interagency mechanism for the production of coherent and coordinated policies and approaches on all maritime issues and concerns, particularly in the areas of maritime security, development, administration, and governance. And the NCWS is made of three organs, the National Coast Watch Council, the National Coast Watch Council Secretariat, and the National Coast Watch Center. Now, Executive Order 57 establishes the National Coast Watch Council as a central interagency body in charge of formulating strategic direction and policy guidance for the National Coast Watch system. The National Coast Watch Council is made up of 9 member agencies, so let me just enumerate them again. The council provides strategic direction and policy guidelines for the system. The 9 council members of the council are the Department of Foreign Affairs, DFA, Department of Agriculture, Department of Energy, Finance, Environment and Natural Resources, Department of Justice, Department of National Defense, DOTC, and the Department of Interior and Local Government. The NCWC is under the Office of the President. The Executive Secretary is the Chairman of the Council. The National Coast Watch Council Secretariat is a policy arm of the system. It also provides technical and administrative support to the Council. The National Coast Watch Center, under the capable leadership of Commodore Gerald Garcia here, is the implementing operations arms of the system. Now, we understand that the nature of the bill is to is actually aimed at creating a better or comprehensive understanding of the Benham Rise. Now, we would like to share with you our initiatives on this matter. As a way to address the need to build a comprehensive understanding of the Benham Rise region, Resolution Number 2, 2015 of the Executive Committee of the NCWC convened a technical working group on the Benham Rise Deep Sea Resources Research Program. I'm reading the title exactly as is written in the document. And for your references, I actually gave your staff a copy of the Executive Committee Resolution Number 2. The members of the technical working group are the DOE, the DNR, DNR BMB, DNR Mines and Geosciences Bureau, the Department of Agriculture to the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, DOST, NEDA, and NEDA. Now, we also work with special members. DOST card, we have the DBM, we have the DFA MOAL. We also work with resource institutions who are consistently with us. That's the UPMSI, UPLB SESAM, UPNIGS, UPIMLOS. Okay, so bear with me, it's a bit long po. The purpose and intent of the technical working group is to undertake and to propose to the Council a national research and exploration program on the Benham Rise, the aim of which is to investigate the chemical, physical, and biological conditions of the Benham Rise. The functions of the technical working group specifically are, let me just cite some of the pertinent items in the resolution: identify, consolidate, integrate, and or harmonize approved and ongoing research and exploration program projects and initiatives related to the deep sea resources of the Benham Rise. Identify viable research projects and activities which utilize the best possible approaches, methodologies, and techniques for seabed or marine resources exploration. consolidate and harmonize individual project proposals from relevant government agencies, private research or commercial and other relevant institutions to consult the National Research Program, formulate policies, rules, and regulations as well as technical guidelines which shall govern private sector participation in the formulation and or implementation of the NREP. Prepare a multi-year budget proposal for the implementation of the NREP and empower the technical working group to create a subgroup to consolidate harmonized policies based on the research outputs. This is significant as other government agencies are also embarking on their initiatives meant to put in place management framework initiatives for the area. As a matter of fact, sir, we've been working closely with DNR BMB in their initiative to craft the management framework of the Benham Rice region. Now, on the matter of the Benham Rice region and the national development, I would like to share to you the position of the NCWC. The Benham Rice region has tremendous economic, biological, scientific, and environmental potential for the country. The sheer size and the multiple variety of stakeholders in the area presents the country with challenges that need to be addressed collectively and at the national level. It's the view of the NCWC that any discussion of the area cannot be undertaken using a piecemeal approach, but rather it should be placed within a larger framework of national marine development, one that is integrative, coordinative, takes on a whole-of-government approach, and is based on a fundamental shift from a land-based development paradigm to one that reflects the maritime and archipelagic nature of the country. Towards this goal, sir, the National Coastwatch Council Secretariat has been working on the revision of the 1994 National Marine Policy. Now, basically, to explain it in a very simple way, the 1994 National Marine Policy is the blueprint for the development and governance of the country's maritime and ocean domain. Realizing the need to put the framework document in touch with current political, security, economic, and development realities, the NCWC, together with the University of the Philippines Center for Integrative and Development Studies, conducted the National Marine Policy Review and Strategic Direction workshop. In light of our discussion on the Benham Rice, the relevant findings and recommendations of the review process are as follows. So we contracted UPC Ideas to actually conduct a nationwide study on the revision of the 1994 National Marine Policy. And we are going to provide your office with the publication, which is published in the Public Policy Journal of the UPC Ideas.
Sorry, what's the ideas?
Center for Integrative and Development Studies, sir.
Who's the current head of that?
If I'm not mistaken, Dr. Ko?
Edna ko.
Dr. Ko. Okay, so I would like, sir, to share some of the findings related to maritime scientific research. One, there is a need to explore the potential of Benham Rice in other areas of the country's exclusive economic zone by investing in research and development and resource exploration. Number two, there is a need for the suitable management of the coastal and marine environment and resources and continued harnessing of benefits and interactions from ecosystem services balancing, economic and social development, resource needs, and environmental conservation through a more comprehensive ecosystem-based approach. Number three, policy should be science-based. There is a need for sustainable marine research development and extension system that merges science-based decision-making. Number four, there's a need for the formulation and implementation of a national marine RDE, research and development agenda that will unify and coordinate all state and non-state actors, research development, and extension activities related to ocean and marine resources. The principal problem that we have, sir, in our experience in organizing MSR expedition, you can do it two ways. Number one, sir, you can do it government to government agencies partnering with other government agencies, or in the case of UPMSI, you partner with a foreign entity. Now, to simplify the matter of the challenges we encountered in coordinating research in the area, number one is the lack of government resources. And number two, the very short window of opportunity to conduct research in the Benham Rice. So you only go there in certain months. If you have a death wish, you go there during the typhoon season.
Could you tell us what that window of opportunity is?
It's summer months po.
So what, March to June? Ganun?
It's April to May.
April to May. When was the Oceana video? What was the time frame for that? May 2015, 2016, 2016.
Now, sir, we also have some, we thank you for providing us with a copy of the draft bill. We have certain comments on the draft that we'd like to share with you. It's a good thing that we have here Attorney Batumbaral to explain the legal framework. Number one, there's a need to actually clarify the question whether the Benham rice, in the entirety of it, is part of the Philippine national territory. The decision of the UN Commission on the limits of the continental shelf simply confirmed that Benham rice is part of the extended continental shelf and not part of the national territory. So I am not a technical expert. I am not from the DFA. So that is the reason siguro why we have the technical experts here, so to confirm that. Number two, the Philippines does not have sovereignty over Benham rice entirely. The Philippines will have sovereign rights, less than sovereignty, but exclusive and superior to the rights of other states over Benham rice. Under Article 77 of UNCLOS, the Philippines have the sovereign right to explore and exploit the oil, gas, and other mineral resources as far as the seabed of the international extended continental shelf is concerned. Fisheries, the water column beyond the 200 nautical miles is another thing. I think it's under the jurisdiction of the Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission. Other countries do not have legal rights to conduct seismic surveys to look for oil, gas, and minerals and can only do so with permission from the Philippine government. Otherwise, they would be in violation of UNCLOS because UNCLOS has reserved the oil, gas, minerals, and even sedentary species in the Benham rice to the Philippines. Now, this is our position. The NCWC supports the creation of an agency that will take care of the preservation, conservation, utilization, and development of all marine domains under the Philippine national territory. It also supports the creation of an agency that will define policies, direct and manage activities aimed at preserving, conserving, and utilizing resources in the marine domains which are part of the Philippine extended continental shelf, and any marine domains to which the Philippines under international law could exercise sovereign rights. The NCWC would like the Senate to consider the creation of an agency similar to the BRDA, but with wider scope in terms of power, functions, and geographical reach. The NCWC believes that the Philippines needs not just a Benham Rice Development Authority, but rather a Department of Marine and Ocean Affairs, an agency similar to the proposed BRDA, but which covers the entire Philippine national marine territory, including marine domains where the Philippines can exercise sovereign rights. Now, what the visioning of the NCWC for this is like this. Our goal is to build a prosperous archipelagic Philippine state. Our primary economic goal is to develop a marine ocean-based industrialized economy. The basic social objectives are social equity, poverty reduction, inclusiveness, and people empowerment. The basic philosophical foundation is the idea that the Philippine nation should be and is a unity of land, water, people, and environment. Now, let us look at the general context of our proposal. The Philippines has more water than land, thus development strategies must shift from a land-based to a more integrated marine development, or as people in the DNR call this a ridge-to-deep approach. There is an urgent demand to expand the country's resource base, and there is great need to mobilize these resource bases to contribute to national development and to poverty alleviation. There is a need to directly and systematically address the needs of the impoverished social groups in our society. Often quoted statistic, at least 80% of poor Filipinos live in coastal areas. There is significant transformation of the physical coverage and legal extent of jurisdictional control of the Philippines over its internal and adjacent marine areas brought about by the UNCLOS. The West Philippine Sea Challenge is a major risk for interstate conflict, but at the same time, it offers an opportunity for regional cooperation where the Philippines could take a leadership role. Climate change will be the major development and security concern for the future all throughout the world, including the Philippines. Now, the goals for the creation of the Department of Marine and Ocean Affairs establish a high-level integrated and strengthened decision-making and implementation mechanism within the context of a decentralized system of governance to provide an institutional focus in the management of the multiple use of ocean and marine resources, reduce, if not absolutely eliminate, substantial duplication and overlap in functions of marine-related government agencies, integrate and harmonize planning and implementation at all levels of marine management, create synergy among the various pillars, politics and jurisdiction, conservation and development, regulation and enforcement, and security. And then finally, strengthen database and information sharing systems for intersectoral and intersectoral integration of policies, plans, and programs, and for monitoring and evaluation. Now, the items as stated here are actually products or outputs which resulted from the review of the 1994 National Marine Policy. Thank you very much, sirs.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a few questions? Corp Director. Director, when was EO 57 issued?
2011, if not mistaken, sir.
2011. When was the last meeting of the council?
The council met last year, sir.
And how often usually does it meet? Once a year? Twice a year?
No, sir. I understand they meet, I think, 4 times a year.
4 times a year?
Yes, sir.
And they usually send ASECs or directors? Sinong pinapadala ng mga secretaries?
Assistant Secretary, sir.
ASECs. Okay. Well, maybe we could ask for a copy of the UPCID's Marine Review.
Yes, sir. I will provide your office with
Mr.
the
Chair.
copy.
I totally agree that there has to be a greater emphasis on marine policy because as opposed to just focus on land, given the untapped resources at our disposal. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry. Director, dito sa Benham Rice, meron na kayong mga plans and programs yan?
We are planning to conduct, sir. You have to understand.
Your agency?
Actually, not my agency. You have to understand, sir, that the research happens within the agencies. For example, BIFAR has their research initiatives in Benham Rice.
Right.
UPMSI has their research initiatives in the Benham Rice. Now, what we do is that we need to address 2 challenges. Like, kung pupunta kayo sa Benham Rice, wala kayong barko. Tapos, kung gusto nyo magsabay-sabay na lang kayo para makatipid ang gobyerno. Yun po.
Kayo ang gumagawa nun?
Kami po ang gumagawa nun.
Okay.
And then number 2,
So you
of course,
coordinate with everyone?
yes, sir. We coordinate the security aspects of the
This is for the entire nation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Practically.
And in your council, kasama ba dyan ang DOE?
Yes, sir.
Kasama ang
po.
Department of Energy?
Kasama po.
Oo. And the direction really is more for research and more for research of the council. Anong
The direction of the
direction?
council, one aspect lang po ang marine scientific research.
Okay.
But to state it in a very general way, all issues concerning the maritime domain, that includes security, maritime development, maritime scientific research, is within the mandate, the coordinatory mandate of the National
How
Coastwatch
about
Council.
oil and gas exploration, resource exploration, seabed mining?
Oil and gas exploration, the mandate belongs to DOE.
Okay. But since they are part of your
Yes, sir.
council, they share their views and experiences.
Yes, sir. It's not uncommon for scientific expeditions in one ship to contain contingent from the UPMSI, from the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, and from other academic institutions. Considering that we have 9 research platforms.
Well, earlier you mentioned about a parang Department of Maritime.
Yes, sir.
Yata yung may suggestion na ganun eh.
Yes, sir. That suggestion came out from the 1994 National Marine Policy Review.
Right.
There are other suggestions, but that is one of the suggestions.
But this one, DRDA, is actually targeted authority covering exclusively Benham Rice.
Yes, sir.
So it kumbaga mas ang direction niya is really just for that
Yes, sir.
area.
We believe, sir, that the country would benefit more if we lay down something more comprehensive, not for a particular area of the maritime area of the country alone.
What do you mean comprehensive?
Covering the entire...
The entire nation. Okay. All right. Going back to kasi nakatali yung suggestion niyo sa National Coast Watch the way I understand it, no? And in your opinion, paano mo magiging conflict, or I think in your paper yata, baka magkaroon ng conflict, no? Or overlap? Can you explain that further?
Sir, because the proposed mandate under the bill are also almost similar with the functions that was already laid down with the National Coast Watch Council. And other mandates were also distributed to the mandates of the relevant agencies.
But in this case, NEDA specifically spearheads this authority, no? For the BRDA, for the proposal of BRDA.
It was proposed to be part of NEDA in the bill. So, but since we are saying that we should further review whether the creation of a very specific agency to the Benham rise is more realistic rather than strengthening the existing council that already performed almost the same function.
Okay. I think Benham Rise, in terms of potential, has not been explored yet, no? And the intention really is to create an agency specifically looking after the potential of that area. Having the thought that this area is really, a large, vast region, almost as big as the entire country, So, do you think a National Coast Watch, which covers the entire area, might have a different focus, or might be focusing more on the maritime aspect of the entire nation rather than the development, especially the of Benham Rise? Do you think they might be spread too thinly and not cover the potential of Benham Rise?
Sir, on my opinion, I think it's more long-term if we have an agency that looks into the whole nation because we don't know in the future if there will be another something like Benham that can come up. But the function or the exploration that are needed to determine the potential of the Benham is already being conducted by different agencies. What matters now is how to coordinate
Right. That's why that's the
different
intention
studies.
of the authorities,
Yeah.
to coordinate and harmonize everything, to include biodiversity aspects, food security aspects, para hindi kanya-kanya yung kanilang
Yes, sir.
development and research. And this is really the essence of this bill, And but focused on Benham Rise, because the area is really big, 24 million hectares to, almost as big as Luzon and Visayas. So ang ano ko lang naman, ang nasa isip ko lang naman is the National Coast Watch entity is covering the entire nation,
Yes, sir.
Council. This one is targeted siya for Benham Rise, and as well as reaping the potential for development purposes. That's why it's lodged under NEDA, So that's really what I had in mind, And I just want to get your opinion whether bringing it into the council might diminish the development aspect of Benham Rise. Sige po.
Sir, just clarification. The National Coast Watch Council is not the lead agency for the technical working group. The technical working group is actually led by the DNR MGB, Mines and Geosciences Bureau. Now, the function of the council is actually coordinatory only in nature. So the determination of who takes the lead in the technical working group would be determined by the council.
Who's the chair of the NCWC? Is the president?
Executive Secretary, sir.
Who's the vice chair? Oh.
Undersecretary Jose Luis Solano po is the executive director.
Traditionally, it's the ES who presides at the meeting. Since he's,
It's po Undersecretary Jose Luis Solano.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll probably go back to you later on, no, after hearing some of the resource persons.
Mr. Chair,
Sir,
can I
General.
just make a comment on to add to the presentation of the National Coastwatch Council? May I say that the National Coastwatch Council can put together an interagency marine scientific research expedition. Indeed, by the 3rd of April up to the 31st of May, 59 days, all in all, you would have that kind of a marine scientific research expedition in the East China Sea. Meaning, what I'm trying to drive at, it could organize the same thing for Benham rice. If the purpose of the chairman of these hearings to put up an authority to oversee later on Benham rice, or perhaps Reed Bank, or perhaps the Philippine Deep specific agencies, then it might be also good to consider the putting up of a department that has been mentioned, the Department of Maritime Resources and Ocean Affairs, as in the case of other countries that are similarly situated like us. For example, Indonesia has its frontline, it's probably one of the strongest, and the frontline agency now in Indonesia is the Department of Maritime Affairs, Maritime Resources, which takes care of all these things, fisheries, seabed resources, so that all the efforts of that could be found in agriculture, which is fisheries, of energy, DOE, which is exploration, of minerals and other things in the seabed, or of Coast Guard, partly Coast Guard could be there, and other agencies could be placed into one agency that are taking care of this. After all, DENR has 3 agencies already there. We do not want to take out those agencies from DENR, but if they are really concentrating on the oceans, then why not put them together with other agencies that are working in the ocean, like fisheries. Just a comment, Mr. Chair.
Chair, if I may, I agree with the suggestion of General Esperon, because may short-term and long-term implication. In the short term, matagal na natin sinasabi, we need to do this, we need to do that. So I think it's time to move to the next level and actually do it. And perhaps if the NCWC is minded, they could put it on their agenda of the next meeting, that perhaps you could be the lead. You're just a coordinating body, I know, but because it seems that the interests, our interest in Benham rice is falling within the bureaucratic cracks. Wala nangyayari kasi parang nagtuturo, nagtitinginan lang tayo eh. So that's why, that's the role maybe of a coordinating council, which is under the office of the president. So you have the mandate, you have the legal authority. Mag-organize na tayo ng expedition doon while we're still debating because I think I see some merit also in the suggestions of NEDA that perhaps we should cast our net wider, and of NCWC, no? Kasi baka yung Benham rice, baka in the future, it's just going to be like Malampaya, di ba? But definitely, I think the imperative is to act at the soonest possible time, and because everyone at the table seems to be in agreement, Mr. Chair, that we need to maximize the potentials of. The question is how, and what is the instrumentality, what is the modality.
Thank you, Senator Sani. And for me, after going through the bill and hearing our stakeholders and government agencies, especially from the first hearing, I can see that the activities here is quite in Benham rice, it's quite fragmented, no? And of course, DNR is more concerned with the biodiversity aspect, while DOE is also looking at harnessing the potential of that of energy. But at the end, what we want is a sustainable, a holistic, sustainable development approach in that area, hindi yung kanya-kanya. And since the area is quite big, we're talking about a huge area. My concern is if we lodge it in a national council like the National Coastwatch Council, the original intention might diminish, no? And then itong authority na ito is focused really on harnessing what's there, making sure it's sustainable, and making sure that the Filipino people benefit from that potential. No? Of course, the National Coast Watch is also concerned with the maritime and security aspect of the entire nation. No? But in this case, it's really targeted towards the Benham Rice region. No? But then again, thank you very much for your comments, and we'll definitely take that into account. Our next resource person will be DBM. Andito ba ho yung DBM? Wala. Wala sila. Wala yata ang DBM eh. Sayang. Kailangan pa naman natin ng pondo. Okay. Our next presenter will be Attorney Virgilio Calag of the Maritime Industry Authority, Marina. Sir?
Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Actually, based on this discussion, we have to limit on the function of the Marina as we are the regulatory body as far as vessels are concerned, and we are ensuring the safety of vessels, the domestic trade, and as far as exploration of resources in the like the Malampaya, we issue this special permit to foreign ships coordination as endorsed by the Department of Energy, because there are no available Philippine registered ships that will explore in this area. So if there are applicants to explore in this area with the endorsement of the Department of Energy, we have to issue the special permits, because under our chart, under our function under 9295, RA 9295, we have to allow ships to operate in the domestic trade if there are no capable domestic Philippine registered ships that will explore in this area. So based on our existing regulation, and we have also under our charter and under our Republic Act, we issue the special permits, and we have a limited period of time. For example, every we have I think a maximum of 2 years. Then there are some instances where we have to extend the special permit because of the need as endorsed by the Department of Energy. So, and so far this but our the special permit that we have issued is only limited to those in the Palawan area where there is exploration of gas in that Malampaya, I think that Malampaya. So with the proposed bill, I think it will be a welcome move that there's a particular body that will oversee the exploration of these resources around the extended continental shelf, because I think there are a large area, particularly the north and the east, and with the creation of this body, I think there will be particular that will craft the policies as to how these natural resources will be developed. So, insofar as the maritime industry is concerned, we can be of help as far as the operation of foreign ships in that area. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I don't know if you can enlighten us on this. Itong daanan, itong dinadaanan ng Benham Rice, high traffic ba ito? Is it a high volume, high traffic passage?
I cannot answer on the passage of.
Oh, yung Benham Rice pababa o pataas. Is that a high volume? Are you?
I think it is the Philippine Navy that can monitor on this, the
Okay.
number of vessels that will operate in this area, Your Honor.
And then you mentioned earlier that lahat po ng exploration, no? For example, for oil and gas, dapat po kumuha ng permits po sa inyo. Vessels. No?
If they are, because I think there are no Philippine registered vessels that is capable to explore in these areas. Actually, it's the Department of Energy that is, they have an agreement with the Department of Energy. Then the DOE will endorse the application to us. Then we will issue the corresponding permit because these are foreign registered ships.
So, any and all foreign vessels that will undertake exploration or research, they should go to you and get
Yes,
permits.
Your Honor. Yes,
Lahat
Your
po.
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
For example, DOE will do seismic, conduct seismic activities there, and they will lease a ship. Pupunta ho sa kanila to do that, para kumuha.
They will endorse that to us. Before we issue the special permit, we have to seek the endorsement of the Department of Energy because that is the primary area of jurisdiction. So
But they have to go to you to get that
for the
permit.
operation of the vessel, Your Honor.
For the operation of the
Yes.
vessel. Marine scientific research, ganyan rin?
I'm not aware of this particular vessel that.
So marine scientific research ka lang, kumuha rin sa inyo. After DFA, will they go to you and get a certain permit? Wala na. I can hear those.
I have not encountered any, but we have.
So I
as
guess
far as
hindi kasi wala
the
kang na-encounter.
exploration of this Malampaya passed through Marina.
So sorry po.
Exploration, the vessels operating this Malampaya area exploration.
But yung mga marine scientific research, for example, yung mga taga Japan, Korea, China, even as far as Europe, they will come here, they will do joint research. Will they have to go to Marina to get that permit?
We have not, I think we have not received that
Wala,
kind
I
of
guess hindi,
application.
hindi po. Sige. Alright. Thank you. And you go to the Coast Guard, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. We in the Philippine Coast Guard support the proposed bill of the Honorable Chairperson on the establishment of the authority that would enable the government to exploit and explore the natural resources in the continental shelf. Now, with respect to the issue pertaining to mine scientific research, I would say that there are two certain elements that we must consider. First, if the marine scientific research pertains to the exploration of the natural resources in the seabed pertaining the continental shelf, the foreign coastal state or foreign entity should en masse ask permission from our Department of Foreign Affairs. But if we try to base it on issues non-natural resources, and again, in addition to what is being practiced customarily in the international community, by international community, I would say that those scientific research pertaining to the study on salinity, the water temperature, and even mathematical study, basically is they have the right to do so. Now, with respect to the freedom of navigation in our EEZ, I would say that under Article 88 and 90, all foreign coastal states have the right to conduct safe navigation in that area. Innocent passage pertains to the territorial sea and archipelagic waters. So basically, with the issues pertaining to the Chinese conduct of navigation in that area, and the same thing that even the Japanese and the US and Australians, they do conduct the same activity based on our study in the National Coastwatch Center. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Commandant, earlier I asked si Attorney Calag, I don't know if you are, if you can enlighten us whether this area is a busy area or ano ba itong area na dito sa may eastern seaboard. Is
Yes,
that a
sir.
busy area?
Yes, sir. If you try to base it to marine traffic based on satellite imaging, indeed, it's a busy area.
What type of vessels pass through that?
All types of vessels, sir, because most of the vessels, the trade between Australia, Indonesia, and going to countries belonging to North Asia, such as China, Taiwan, South
So
Korea.
you
and
consider
Japan.
this as a busy
It is it's a busy area, sir.
Oo. And earlier you mentioned about marine scientific research. We also talked about that earlier. The first step is with DFA, and then kailangan pa ho sila kumuha ng permit from the Coast Guard if they want to undertake marine scientific research.
Well, in the case of within the mandates of the Coast Guard, they don't need to.
Wala na ho.
Wala na po, sir.
Oo.
It's just on the evaluation or determination of the DFA as whether at times there should be riders on board ship.
Okay.
So we have to be very particular on what particular scientific research that the foreign entity should conduct into our
So
EEZ
paano nyo
or-
namomonitor ngayon kung sino-sino yung nandyan? Diba? If they don't pass through you, and how do you now monitor who are the one conducting marine scientific research or seismic surveys? How do you now...
We have the National Coastwatch Center, and we have the technology that allows us to evaluate those ships passing through and through our area within our maritime jurisdiction. With respect to the EEZ or the Benham Rise, where the Benham Rise is located, we can easily identify those vessels having the automatic identification system. So in the case of that Chinese resource vessel, we had identified that vessel as such.
Kayo naka-identify yun?
We provided
Kayo bang first naka-identify nun?
we provided, sir, the Presidential Situation Room and of course the NSA and the DND the data last
So you
December.
have the equipment to detect and to track this type of vessels?
Yes, sir, for as long that they emit a signal based on their AIS.
And this one has a signal?
It has.
So in your opinion, was this, itong nangyari, is this considered, itong nangyari, no? Is this an innocent passage?
So based on the law of the sea, there's no such thing as innocent passage
Okay.
in the EEZ. Innocent passage only appertains to the territorial
Territorial.
waters or the archaeologic waters.
Okay,
So
so
in the case of EEZ, the foreign coastal states have the right to freedom of navigation.
okay. And then was this is this considered itong Chinese vessels, were they just passing through, or were they conducting anything more than that?
Well, obviously by the
Based on
identification-
your ano?
obviously by identifying the vessel as a scientific research vessel, there's a high probability that they may be conducting research.
But based on what you have seen and using your equipment, no, to track them down.
What we can see in our screen, sir, is just the object and the movement of the vessel from one point to the other. But as to determination whether the vessel is really conducting what particular type of research is a different thing. So as what I said earlier, we must first distinguish the provisions that provide the coastal state, the Philippines, the right for the exploration and exploitation of the natural resources. Based on Article 77, sir, those ships belonging to other coastal state that intends to conduct scientific research on the natural resources within our continental shelf, they must have to ask permission from the Philippine government through our Department of Foreign Affairs. But in the context, if the marine scientific research is in the context of, shall we say, the study of water column, the study of the salinity, the water temperature, I would say, sir, that we must try to revisit the international customary practice in the international community with respect to scientific research.
Mr. Chair, may we ask, ano po yung HD Al-Hajj dun sa pangalan po niya?
Yeah.
Sir, I went to Hajj, sir.
Okay.
I embraced Islam.
I see. And HD is,
I have the doctorate degree, sir.
I see. Yung equipment natin, you said the center, that's the part of the three-headed structure of the NCWC.
Sir, the executive...
You had the NCWC?
Executive Order 57 was established pursuant, is basically a central interagency mechanism that would provide the country a sort of maritime electronic eyes for within our maritime domain.
That's right.
And of course, part of the function of the council is to enable the council to integrate the maritime development.
Yeah, I get that.
Yes, sir.
No? But I'd like to go more to the nitty-gritty of how we work. The center is like the technical arm, ganun ba yun?
We are the operating arm of
You're
the
the
council.
operating arm, right?
Yes, sir.
And what's the manpower component of the Coast Guard is deputized as is kind of
The National Coastwatch Center has 9 supporting agencies.
Oh, I see.
And as such, we have LNOs or liaison officers or permanent representative from these 9 supporting agencies.
Right.
And incidentally, under the EO, the Coast Guard is the head of the center.
Are those 9 representatives operating as independent cells, or is there a unified structure, or physically or otherwise?
There are 4 agencies that have provided the center with their respective.
So yung NCWC center, walang building yan?
We have a building, sir.
You have a building. Where is it located?
It's in the Coast Guard.
In the Coast Guard.
Yes.
And that's where the equipment is, where you track these.
Yes.
When was the first appearance of the ship on your equipment? Kailan yung first?
The building, the operation of the center started some.
I meant
ago.
the ship that Senator Gatchalian, Chairman Gatchalian was asking about.
Yes, sir. As
Kailan yung first
December and
appearance?
January, sir. December and January.
December and January. But how long were they actually in the area? According to Secretary Lorenzana.
Basically, sir, that vessel, we saw the vessel navigating the West Philippines, South China Sea and West Philippines Sea as well, sir.
Yes.
So,
and it went to the eastern side around December or January.
Yes, sir.
And it's been there up to this day. It's left to this day.
No, sir.
It's left already.
Yes, sir.
When did it leave?
Well, I have the data, sir. I don't have the data now.
Okay.
But
Maybe you can furnish us just a general summary.
We will, sir.
And what is the capacity of the equipment, I think? And is there a need to get better equipment to further strengthen our enforcement of our rights here in this area?
Yes, sir.
There is a need.
There is a need.
Okay. So again, it's what we pose to General Esperon, because we are the appropriating body. I think we need to know these things. So we have a bird's eye view and we have a long-term view of, or kind of like a roadmap of where we want to get to, and then we do it by little steps, no? Because obviously this is a daunting task to get to where we want to, but if we start the process already, we'll get there eventually, no? So we'll ask for that from you. How to better. Basically, what's the situation of the Coast Guard nowadays? So how is what's our ability to patrol our waters? Because I understand the ship that accompanied Oceana had to go all the way from Apari.
Yes,
Its
sir.
drop-off point was Apari, so it took it a day to get to the eastern seaboard. That's a day of sailing, and then it actually took another day to get to. Is that correct? To get to Benham area.
Well, see, if you try to use the vessel, it will take you more than a day from Manila going to that
So
area.
if we're trying to deter or
But
enforce, parang medyo mahina yung deterrent capacity natin kung isang araw pa tayo, kung manggagaling pa tayo ng Apari, di ba? Would you agree?
Yes, sir. In fact, sir, yesterday I called our pilot to start conducting the maritime surveillance in that area.
Yeah.
So because we have 2 islanders,
Okay.
so basically we can fly in that area to conduct surveillance operation.
You will fly. So,
Yes, sir.
ilan ang air assets ng Coast Guard?
Dalawang islander, sir.
Islander.
Yes.
That's a plane that can land on the sea, no? No? What is that?
No, it's a term.
What is that? What is the Islander? What is that?
It's a 10-seater plane called the technical.
Okay.
This islander, yeah.
It doesn't have the capacity to land on the ocean.
No, sir.
I see.
And that's why we are taking this opportunity. If in Quezon or Aurora province, if there's an airstrip, we can land in that airstrip.
Yes, there is an airstrip in Kasiguran.
So,
That's why, and because Aurora is, Casiguran is a natural harbor ever since the time of the Spaniards. They've been using it as a harbor during inclement weather, no? So that's why it's a natural harbor, and Aurora Isabel is a natural jump-off point. That's what I'm driving at, General and Mr. Chairman, because yan talaga eh. Dapat hindi na sa apa rin nagkakaling yung Coast Guard kasi by then it's too late, di ba? By then it's too late. Yeah, we should have some kind of station on the Pacific
Mr.
seaboard.
Chair,
Yeah.
your Philippine Coast Guard, Mr. Chair, is operating under the Department of Transportation, and it's part of our proposed program for DOTR to put up ports and harbors in the eastern seaboard of the Philippines.
Because that saves us time also, shipping
Yes.
time from Hong Kong, and we've been arguing that for the last 10 years actually, but it's been slow getting online. No? So maybe you could help us push that argument forward, and we could help you in turn increase your capacities. No?
And probably, sir, because of the narrative within Benham Rise, there's an urgent need to put up one.
For Benham Rise, there was already the need because we would save 5 to 6 hours of shipping time. As a Marquisa knows this, because he was once the head of the Aurora Eco Zone, so he knows the arguments for shipping, for going around the South China Sea in terms of shipping. And in terms of, I'm no military expert, Mr. Chair, but it seems makes sense to me that in case there's something that breaks out in the West Philippine Sea, you always have that safe, yung kumbaga yun yung safety valve mo, yung West Philippine Sea, di ba? Yung East Philippine Sea rather. East China Sea. I'm getting confused there.
We of course recognize, Mr. Chair, that we could have a harbor in Dingalan as well as in Baler, up north.
Siguro probably is what you mean. Yeah. Because Baler and Dingalan are already adjoining, so that's too close already, no?
It could be...
Yeah, Casiguran is northern part, that's closer to Isabela also, so that would make a natural jump-off point. Casiguran is only 2 towns away from Isabela, and Dingalan is very close to Manila, but the land route to Dingalan has to be developed through Bulacan, Doña Remedios, Trinidad. So these are the long-term steps that we need to take, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Angara. Commandant, a few more questions. No? In your expert opinion, ano pong ginagawa ng Chinese vessel doon?
Well, based on the
data that you saw,
appearance on the screen, sir, on our electronic screen, obviously, sir, they are conducting navigation for a length of time. But as to
what was it?
But as to the physical activity, whether they're conducting marine scientific research violative of our rights under Article 77, that is another story, sir. And I would say that it's one challenge, big challenge for the Philippine government to really determine the specificity of the scientific research a coastal state conducts in our area. Not necessarily China, but this includes our allies as well.
How do you overcome that challenge, Commandant?
Well, if it pertains as what the National Security Advisor has mentioned, sir, the vessel itself, the type of the vessel itself, we can determine whether it's a vessel designed for scientific study on natural resources beneath the subsoil.
Right now, we cannot do that. We don't have the capability on doing that. May capability ba ho tayo? What you're saying is we don't have the technology to do that.
We don't have the technology, sir, but only the expertise on identifying the special type of vessel, because this vessel, sir, is not designed for scientific studies pertaining to the drilling of natural resources.
Seismic surveys.
Yes, sir. Because there are numerous type of special vessels that engages, like for example, Maria, they have a special vessel that for hydrographic survey, but that hydrographic survey cannot do scientific studies on other aspects such as natural resources beneath the subsoil. So it needs a specially designed vessel to do that.
And so what you're saying, Commandant, is alam natin saan pumupunta o saan dumaan, pero hindi natin alam anong ginagawa.
Yes, sir.
And to determine kung alam natin, kung paano natin malaman kung anong ginagawa nila doon, we can do that with equipment, with technology.
And of course, physical inspection.
Physical inspection.
Yes, sir.
But technology can also do that?
It can help.
Okay. Okay. But how can you conduct physical inspection if you don't know what are the ships?
Well, the things are under the law of the sea. The coastal state has the right to visit,
Okay.
board and search.
Did you visit this one?
In this case, sir, no, sir.
How come you didn't visit this one?
Basically, sir, sir, at saka, meron kasi sir tayo tinatawag, sir, na...
Isang araw pa.
That's why, sir, that's what the NSA has mentioned a while ago, that that area really is as big as the landmass of the Philippines. That's why the more that we have to consider building the Coast Guards and the Navy in order to physically conduct guarding of our
So what
maritime
was
domains.
the reason why you didn't inspect this?
The weather conditions, sir.
Okay.
Because there are so many aspects that we consider before conducting operations, sir.
So for this particular, it was physically not possible
At that time, sir.
at the time.
Yes,
at the
sir.
time to inspect the ship.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Commandant. Thank you. That's all for now. Our next is Attorney J. Batumbakal. Attorney J, Professor, you're the next resource person.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I just ask the presentation, please? This is a long presentation, but I'll skip to just the, could you skip to part 2, which contains the meat of it? This is actually based on work we have been doing for BNB and Oceana, because 2 weeks ago we conducted a policy mapping for Benham Rise. So we had to map all the activities in this area as far as we knew, based on publicly available information, and there's quite a lot. And based on the assessment that we're doing on the activities in this area, scale, location, then we will be making recommendations as to the management framework that BNB is putting up. Could you just proceed to the next one and next one, next. Again, this part 2, the one that says part 2. Uy, lumagpas ka na yata. Part 2, balik. That's already part 3 eh. Go back to the beginning siguro. Okay. Uy, nawala. Ba't iba yan? Sige. Go straight down to the end. We'll go through the whole mapping slides, which gives you an idea of the locations of these activities. Go down to the section where there's text. Okay. Yun. Okay. Luma. Okay, basically, sige. Put that slide up. The one with the text. Yun, doon tayo mag-umpisa. Yeah, okay. Please. Okay? Start there. Okay. First of all, things we have to remember in deciding what to do with Benham Rise. The natural hazards in that area, typhoons, earthquakes, sea conditions, the window that NCWC mentioned of only about 2 months a year, all of these inherently limit the range of human activities in that area. So in a sense, the natural conditions already protect us from a lot of the possible activities in that region. Now, most of the current activities which we actually benefit from are actually near shore. They're within 12 to 24 nautical miles of the baselines of Luzon. And these are mainly artisanal fishing, including what they call offshore artisanal fishing, which is relatively close pa rin sa ating islands, and conservation and protection, the efforts for which have just actually started. There's actually minimal activity offshore beyond 12 nautical miles at present. Okay, there's international shipping which is constant at the rate of, based on data that I have from 2014, it's about 1,200 ships a year. That's about 100 ships a year passing through the region. This is relatively small compared to the volume of vessels that pass on the other side, on the South China Sea side and West Philippine Sea, probably around 10% only. There are 2 submarine cables that go through the area. These are commercial cables, and they provide us with internet services basically, and they connect all the way to Hawaii or Guam. The marine scientific research in that area occurs occasionally, and there is a slide there. If you can back up the slide, go to the previous slide again. Previous. Isa pa. Yeah. The marine scientific research that has been conducted in this area has been quite a lot, but it dates back to 1940s, 50s, up to before we were able to make a claim in 2009. The types of research there are varied. Some are on ships, some are on on aerial platforms. Some are simple research taking, say, magnetic readings. Others are a little bit more complicated, such as taking samples. There are 2 deep seabed samples that were taken from Benham Rise back in the 1960s. For example, we actually used that data in making our claim. Since that time, at present, there is a little bit less of this marine scientific research activity. The tracks that you see there on screen, most of them occurred before 2009. The data from all of those tracks is available. It has been lodged in the public domain. So that gives you an idea of what marine scientific research, the legitimate one, should result in. The data should be publicly accessible, and especially for us as the coastal state, if this occurs within the EEZ, we have the right to ask for copies of the full data and as well as all the findings. Okay, sige, I'll go back next. Now, the future. That is with respect to current activity I mentioned. Now, in addition to marine scientific research, there is now fishing and deployment of fish aggregating devices, or PAYAW, in that area. BFAR has been undertaking that for a few years now, and they're trying to promote commercial fishing in that area, particularly tuna fishing. Now, this leads us to prospective future activity, which the potential for which is still unknown. For oil exploration and development, it has already been mentioned in the previous hearing that it is doubtful due to the geology and the costs. Also, based on the mapping that we undertook, the most prospective areas are actually close to the shore. It's on the Bicol Shelf. Benham Rise itself, further offshore, even if the resources are there, it's probably not yet commercially viable. Gas resources is potentially high, according to some estimates, but this requires exploration, which has not been done, as well as technology, which up to now is still in the experimental stage. Only the Japanese, as far as I know, actually have an experimental facility to try to tap into these gas resources in the seabed. There is a potential for tuna fishing, and that could be high, but due to the nature of the area, the limited window for fishing, and the accessibility of the area, then this can still be limited for the near term. The Department of Tourism mentioned sport fishing, by the way, in the previous hearing. Again, this will be inherently limited due to the season, the shortness of the season, as well as the fact that in sports fishing, this is actually a luxury sport. So we don't expect very many people to be doing this, except those with yachts and specialized sport fishing vessels. Minerals are potentially high, but again, it requires exploration, which has not yet been done. And there is also a potential for genetic resources, but that is unknown at this point since we haven't done much exploration and assessment beyond Benham Bank. Benham Bank is only a very small point on Benham Rise. Okay. Now, therefore, the kind, extent, and potential prospective activities in this area, the potential of these activities is actually not yet known. It actually requires basic research and exploration first, either by the Philippines alone through a self-funded program, or it could do it jointly with other countries. In our workshop on this, we were told by the DND representative that there is as yet no perceived military or security threat from this area. In any case, that area is already covered by American operations from Guam. The potentially high-value activities such as deep seabed mining and mineral exploration are still many years or probably even decades away from being perfected. Right now, again, the thing that can be done is to simply explore and find out where these potential areas are. Tuna fishing, as I mentioned earlier, is possible within the near term, but that requires it to become commercially viable. And in order to do so, I think there is a need to develop adjacent ports and logistics facilities to support such kind of an activity, assuming that the fishing companies believe that it is worth it to actually utilize this area. Now, the most pressing Philippine interests and concerns, therefore, based on our mapping, appear to be resource exploration activities per se. And the biggest concern especially is bioprospecting. And we need to monitor and regulate these kinds of activities, and primarily the entry point really is, as we've been discussing, marine scientific research. The other concern is foreign poaching, especially coming from the northern fringes, Taiwan area. If you recall the Balintang Channel incident a few years ago, those activities were extending further southward. We need, of course, to manage fishery intrusions from that area. And then the other one is natural hazard and disaster early detection and warning. That is another concern because of the nature of the area being so exposed. For the long term, maritime security is also a concern because although right now there is no perceived immediate threat, the potential for future threats still remain. Okay. Now, what do we recommend? First of all, is to enable or fund Philippine research exploration and resource assessment projects and programs by DOST, DNR, whether through BNB or MGB. I think this can easily be done by inserting it in the GAA with a particular required program or activity. We need to undertake a national marine biophysical and geological exploration program for this region, and this can already be done by the existing agencies in the same way that DOST and NCWC was able to organize the research cruises for Benham Bank. We just need to essentially to replicate that and make it more expansive. We can have our own scheduled research cruises, or we can open research opportunities for or with the private sector. We can either do it jointly, or we can hitch with foreign research cruises that that ask for permission to do it within our EEZ. Or earlier you were just discussing about Chinese MSR. China has about a fleet of about 20 research vessels already. And they're going to be going through our area in any case because we are the gateway for them to the Pacific. If they're going to do it in our area, we might as well take advantage of that by requiring that our people go with them. That way also we can demand access to all the information that they gather. Now, we also need to fund long-range and remote surveillance, whether it's through radar or satellite tracking services. Some of this can actually be procured commercially rather than having to make our own. We should also enable coordinated management, a coordinated national government research and exploration effort. Earlier, there were already discussions about the possibility of using NCWC as the vehicle. I favor that as well. The legislature actually can require the executive department to produce a realistic and clear management framework by making it a part of the budget. We earmark certain budget for certain activities directed towards Benham Rice. Now, the existing agencies such as DNR, DB, FAR, DOST, PCG, and Philippine Navy already have existing mandates sufficient for this. They just need a coordinating program, basically, possibly through NCWC or perhaps the cabinet cluster system. This will then enable us to do the basic work of exploring this area. Now, with respect to the resolutions, I agree with Senate Resolution number 15, so since it directs the needed research. But with due apologies to our alumni, with respect to Senate Bill 312, I disagree because of practical reasons. As NEDA pointed out, the advisability of establishing an agency at this point, considering that the activities that need to be managed are still minimal, and the really high-value ones are still several decades away. No, we might end up creating an agency that's way too big for a task that's too little, because from that survey that we did, it seems like we might the only new activity that will be managed is sport fishing, and I don't think we can need an entire agency for sports fishing. Okay. Okay. Wait, what is the last one? Ba't mawala?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
what about the proposed bill, the Department of Maritime and Ocean Affairs? What's the view on that one?
Well, that one was not referred to us for this, but I think that's something that can be discussed in more detail because we have similar problems with respect to bureaucracies and people and capacity, etc. But that is something, well, not to mention the infighting that will certainly happen, but that will certainly need a lot more careful consideration. Teka, ano ba yan? There's one more. The reason why, again, other reasons with respect to 312, I think that given the currently limited activities and unknown potentials, it's premature to establish a full-blown authority at this point. Also, I think that it would be an inappropriate level to deal with the immediate issues such as maritime security, shipping. These are really national concerns that can be addressed already by national agencies. Also, the structure, funding, personnel, and capacity may be disproportionate to the nature of the area. This is a huge area of more than 20 million hectares that is 2 to 5 kilometers underwater. So it's hard enough to imagine what kind of capabilities you need, even more so the capacity, human resources you need to be able to do that. The challenges in the area are really national, requiring national responses at this point. And that's why I think I would table the idea of an authority for much later for the time when we already have a good idea of exactly what it is that we need to manage and how we can manage them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I take the point of Professor Jay. But what is the impetus? What would give impetus to action with respect to Benham Rice, given that we're past the level of talking and we want to move to the next level? Is it within the NCWC? Is that the best mechanism to push it forward, push the research envelope forward? Yeah.
I think, sir, the impetus really is to explore. We need to find out about the area. We need to reveal its potentials. And we've already started doing that with two expeditions, albeit they are limited in scope to biophysical and only to Benham Bank.
What are the costs? What's the cost of an expedition? Could you give us an idea? And even the cost of a research vessel and the other things you mentioned. Could you give us an idea of the costs involved there?
Yeah, I would probably defer to the marine science people on this.
But whoever can answer, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the part of geological surveys, that means the non-living resources, the mineral resources in the seabed, petroleum resources, it's ranging between $50,000 a day to higher. If you rent a boat, and normally you'd stay there about a month or so. So that's 30 days times $50,000. Minimum, Mr. Chair.
Sir.
Dollars, just for the rental,
Yes.
just for the boat rental.
Yes, sir. And that has to do with, you have to respect the schedules as well of the vessel. That's why it actually makes sense to
And
also
who rents out
subcontract
these
this.
vessels? Who rents them out? Is there a rent-a-car that you can go?
Excuse me, actually, as far as oil exploration is concerned, we ask them to shoot the data for us. So the cost of 2D data is about $1,000 per kilometer, and for an area this size, at least $10 million.
It's quite an amount, but it's
very regional.
So it makes sense. I guess the follow-up question is: does it make sense to do it in coordination with China or any other power?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, thank you. I heard a yes from a loud yes from this side, and then some softer yeses on this side. Okay. So the stenographer can record it.
Mr. Chair. This is with respect to the other questions raised on MSR itself, which is entirely separate from Benham Rice. Like I mentioned, there are opportunities available if we take them. And this is basically to hitch on to the MSR cruises of other countries, including China, which has 20 vessels at least that are going out at least twice, 3 times a year. It is possible for us to require, for example, as a condition of consent for them to do MSR within our areas, to call at our ports in order for us to be able to inspect them and to take on board an observer. It is possible for us, even if we don't have a marine scientist, we can at least train an observer to dutifully log every activity that takes place on the vessel so that he can then report, and then we can find out. And then afterwards, you can also ask for all the data that they acquired within our jurisdiction. That I think would be the most efficient way to do it, given that is an opportunity. Now, of course, it comes with certain risks, but we leave it basically to our security agencies to be able to assess those risks. With respect to technologies, most of these vessels do have AIS, and it is possible to track them. There's actually an open source website where you can track some of these vessels. With respect to the activities that they take place, the best way, of course, is to have an actual person on board participating. Next best thing would be to ensure that when the vessel passes through our area, we have at least one ship ready to escort it and ensure it doesn't do anything else than what it's supposed to do. And then the third one is through remote sensing, of course. The vessel tracks, as I mentioned, based on the behavior of the vessel, then it is possible to have an idea of what they're doing. And then later, we can also demand, if they took place within our EEZ, we can also demand copies again of all the information that they acquired. So these would be the least costly ways to build up the capability at this point, if we do not want yet to spend that much on acquiring vessels and training personnel. Incidentally, the Navy has a new research vessel, the one that was turned over from the United States, which can conduct similar types of research. The people that we can train for this vessel can also do the duty of getting on board these other nations' vessels. Maybe that's the way to train them, actually. So it's not that we don't have capabilities right now. The technologies are available. We just need to put in a little bit of money, perhaps, for those that are commercially available, as well as a conscious and deliberate program to really take advantage of this information. Another example I can give you is what was mentioned earlier, the name of the vessel, Shangyang Hong, number 3. I checked on the internet. The vessel, this is available on the internet. The vessel's voyage last November to January is billed by the Chinese press as a world record-setting voyage, taking samples of the seabed, conducting a benthic survey, and taking samples of the water. So that already gives you an idea of what it did. And I had asked our marine science people to assess this, if it's resource related or pure science related.
Prof, Mr. Chair, Prof, yung taking a sample of the seabed, where does that fall? Does that fall within
Exactly.
Exactly. Kasi we have these words, but
yes, exactly.
where is it? In which category?
We're
not sure.
It's
somewhere in between.
It's a thin line, because if we're taking samples of the seabed and they reveal basically mineral content and natural gas caltrates, you could argue that it is already
taking
exploration. So that's why we need to, in a way, we need to rethink how we deal with marine scientific research. It's not enough for us to simply deny permission. We also need to be actively participating.
That's right. Right. And how about the state of remote sensing? You mentioned remote sensing. What's the state of remote sensing among our authorities?
I think I will defer to NAMRIA, but we do have access to quite a lot of data already. We just need to pay for
what's the capacity for remote sensing? Yeah, to trace. I suppose it's to trace movements, no?
Sir, I think when Professor J. Batumbakal talked about remote sensing, he was referring to the tracking of vessels. But as a mapping agency, we are talking of remote sensing in terms of the mapping.
Would that be with the Coast Guard, yung remote sensing, sir? Yung remote sensing capacity, is that under the Coast Guard?
No, sir.
No? It's not...
Vessel tracking is with Coast Guard.
The vessel tracking, sir, is with the Coast Guard and the National Coastwatch Center.
Okay. So what is the state of the art there, of our capacity?
Well, the technology that we have at present is basically given to us by DITRA, a state, an agency from State Department, and
from the U.S.
Yes, sir. So we call it the Sea Vision application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Attorney J. Attorney J, earlier you mentioned that that particular ship has the capability of extracting samples from the seabed. Yan ba yung ginawa nila dito sa Benham Rise or in that area? Or is that the capability of the ship?
That's the
That's a
published, well, it's the capability because Shangyang number 3 is their largest and newest research vessel, 100 meters long, 4,000 plus tons, crew of 80, speed of 15 knots. So they actually took samples, that's the report, and that's why it was reportedly an absolute success for them. That's why it's on their papers.
Okay.
Now, if this took place within the, whether this took place within the EEZ, we don't know because it's just the summary report basically.
So hindi natin ma-pinpoint kung within our EEZ yun?
No,
Hindi
no,
natin
not with that
That is a
information.
report of the activity,
Yes.
but it can be anywhere.
That should be something that our DFA then would ask specifically from the Chinese.
Alright.
Given that this information, there are samples taken, we want to know where.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair,
General.
if I may, you will note here that we have the map of the Philippines, and Xiangyang Hong 3 had been to Surigao, east of our EEC, but it has also been south to southwest of Taiwan, as well as in this area, which is near Japan, so in the open seas. So whether the samples were taken from, we don't know, but it's within their capability.
Yes, sir, but they would know because they need to catalog location of each specific sample.
If we had our participation in that survey, as provided for in the provisions of UNCLOS, then, as you said, doing this in cooperation with other countries and other agencies would actually make sense.
My question, Mr. Chair, is have we made that request, or and if we haven't, do we need to make it, the request to the Chinese government regarding information about the research?
We need to make a request.
Have we made a request?
Yeah.
Have we made a request? Could you answer, ma'am? Yeah, so it's on the record, yeah? Yeah. Can you turn on your mic, please? Yeah. Yeah. We can make a request, but we have not made any requests.
Yes, sir. We can make a request based on the outcome of this.
Is it your view, sir, that we should make that request?
Well, we should, given the concerns raised by DND that they may have done it within our jurisdiction.
Thank you. General Esperon, meron phone-in question, no? May phone-in question. Courtesy of our media, the whole Philippines is watching this. There's a phone-in question, no? Earlier you mentioned that the president, no, gave his permission, no, for the conduct of MSR in this area, no? And that permission is exactly for what you have shown earlier?
At this point, I will not give the details of that, as it is something that would be between the Security Council and the President. But the tone of our joint statement from China is that the President has indeed invited foreign ships to come in, even make a call on our ports. So that would include the research. So if
and this particular vessel is part of that permission.
Oh well, in general.
In general.
In general.
Okay. So that permission was given prior to this vessel coming
Oh
in.
well, we were in China, and the President, of course, in the exercise of foreign policy, has been in touch with neighbors, all countries. So it could be given. But when we had the understanding in China that the invitation was extended to ships, including that of Russia, and indeed Russia came to. The United States does its own patrols in the area, and we board those ships. In fact, so there's a general invitation for that. But we have also our our specific processes for going to this. And indeed, there have been no permits given because of some difficulties, but in the future, as has been suggested, I think we really should go into joint research with anybody for that matter.
Yes, I do agree, no? And as stated by Professor Jay, that it's really to the benefit of our country to participate in those joint research kasi wala tayong equipment eh.
Yeah.
No?
In fact,
Wala tayong equipment. We have the talent, we have the skill,
we
have
have
the
a lot of
know-how,
talent from their
but we
side.
don't have the equipment. So
Yeah.
that's what we need to merge with, no? In equipment. No?
Mr. Chair, fisheries is one area where we should cooperate in as much as the exploitation of the seabed is exclusively ours. Fishes are migratory. They are the property of mankind. So if we could do research together, it is better for us. So we will know where to catch them. After all, why would we deny the whole EEZ and even beyond if we could not catch them anyway? So it would be better to be in an agreement with the neighboring countries, friendly, all countries for that matter, to be in joint agreement with them. Go fishing together.
General, having said that the approval, no, was given prior to all of this activity, especially the incident by that Chinese vessel, how do you now reconcile to the other departments so that there will not be confusion and utmost coordination with the various departments? Because again, no, this is only what I read in the articles, and from also what I hear from our resource persons from today. How do you now cascade that approval, no, and to avoid confusion in the future?
Well, for one, we have mechanisms for coordination. One would be on our side. We have such a thing as the National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea, which I chair, together with other agents. And in there are several agencies, and they're here. Most of them are here. We have the Security Cluster of the Cabinet. We have the Executive Committee of the National Security Council. We have department-to-department coordination, which is the essence of being in government, to be in coordination with other departments. Now, as the Chief Executive of the land, the President can give instructions, even without consulting with the department, because he has, after all the information that he needs. So indeed, he can exercise his foreign policy as the architect of foreign policy. He can do it. And so if he says he has given this permission, then all we have to do in the departments is to do our best to monitor that activity.
There's a mechanism to
yes
to cascade and to coordinate to each and every department.
It may not be as fast or as perfect, but there is a mechanism.
There's a mechanism po. All right. Attorney, are you
Yes,
raising your hand?
yes, Mr. Chairman. Let me just add that in the case of energy, this is very important to us for purposes of gathering data. Because every time the Department of Energy allows any group, for example, any private company, that to conduct seismic surveys, these groups or companies are required to turn over the data to the Department of Energy for its use. And number two, for purposes of technology transfer, every time there's this seismic survey, it is being required by the Department of Energy that at least 2 or 3 personnel of the Department of Energy be made as part of the data gathering, and they be taught to interpret the data. So that is very important insofar as establishing the presence of any resource in that area.
Just a practical matter. What if the data gathering is in Chinese? No, seriously. Seriously.
Yes,
Do we have the capacity, I think, looking forward, do we have the capacity? Is that something the government should be prepared for? To have someone,
Well,
is it something that, do they do that in Chinese? I don't know. Because even if we have someone on the ship, but if everything is done in Chinese, then
Yes, that has to be part of the training, sir.
well, there were some previous engagements before between some Chinese companies and the Department of Energy or other energy-related agencies. Interpretations were eventually made in English so that Filipinos would understand.
It might be a simple question, but it happens. We just came back from Maria Cristina Falls, and the Senator Sani, the contractor there, were Chinese. So nung tinignan ho namin yung control nung hydropower plant, puro naka-Chinese. Sabi nga ho nung mga Pinoy, sir, hindi nga ho namin maintindihan kung alin dito ang high, ang low, and
kaya nasisira.
It happens. No? It happens. All right, thank you very much. And the other departments that we requested their presence, actually, they were here during the first hearing. We will not ask your opinion anymore because most of you also sent your position paper to us. Unless there are other further comments, further opinion, you're welcome to participate. Si Dr. Mario Aurelio.
Yes, Chair. Thank you for giving me the floor. I just want to reiterate what apparently has not been given much emphasis, but already mentioned again by Attorney Che Batumbakal, the aspect of geological hazards assessment, Mr. Senator, because Baler in 1735 was hit by a tsunami, and only a few families survived, including the family of Senator Angara.
You mentioned that during the first hearing, wala ka kasi.
Kaya ako inulit po. And so, I guess in the bill, because when I went through the bill, it was focused on the economic development, meaning the fishery resources and the seabed resources, but there's very little mention, if at all, of protecting the coastal areas in Eastern Luzon. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any more from our stakeholders and the various government agencies? Meron ba ho kayong, do you have anything to add, ma'am? No? Feel free to participate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, last February, the BMB already initiated discussion on the management framework for Benham, and that's where the protection also comes in, because what we need for the development is really sustainable development, which includes as well protection of certain areas within Benham. And we appreciate the coordinating mechanism under National Coastwatch, because at some point our agency and BFAR did not agree on certain measures, but eventually we were able to agree on a portion that can be protected within Benham Rise, which is the Benham Bank, and the surrounding areas can be for fisheries management. We also have recommendations under the exercise. We have recommendations on governance and management, operational resources, information research and data, resource management, and security. And this, so not to prolong the discussion, Mr. Chair, we can submit this to you so you can see if it's useful for your bill.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mondita.
Mr. Chairman, can I present are you willing to I'll present the hydrocarbon potential of the Benham, right?
Sige po, that's one
It's a
of the
very,
most
very
important
short
aspects.
presentation.
Sige po.
Anyway, so I'll just discuss briefly the hydrocarbon potential. When I mean hydrocarbon, I mean petroleum and gas. Okay, geologically speaking, the Benham has a thick sedimentary cover. It does not have the ingredients for an active petroleum system. So in other words, the potential for petroleum is almost nil. However, the gas hydrates is, the potential for the accumulation of gas hydrates is there. I mean, it has the right conditions to trap the gas, similar setting in Japan, so the potential is great. Next slide, please. Anyway, so these are the oil and gas fields around Southeast Asia. If you'll note, there are no known oil and gas fields within the Pacific area. That includes Benham rice. Now, what are gas hydrates? Gas hydrates are gas molecules that are encased in ice. It's same as ice, but it burns. Next slide. So where can they be found? So they are not normally found deep in the ocean, such as the Benham rice, and of course beneath the permafrost regions in very, very cold countries, which we are not any part of. So the Benham rice, within the Benham rice has the conditions for gas hydrates to form. So for those who are scared whether we will be destroying the coral reefs, they will not be forming in the Benham bank where the waters are very, very shallow and it is hard for these gas hydrates to develop. So this is just an example. They occur in the deep parts of the ocean. Gas hydrates before, we considered them as a drilling hazard because when you drill, they explode. But now there's the technology, or they're now doing research to harness gas hydrates. Next slide, please. So why gas hydrates, by the way? It's believed that it has more resource than all of the world's oil, natural gas, and coal resources combined. So the estimates vary from around 10 million TCF to more than 10,000 TCF to more than 100,000 TCF. But if it can be efficiently and economically developed, gas hydrates could become the next energy game changer, similar to what is happening to shale gas nowadays. Shale gas was developed in the 80s, and today we are starting to harness it, although not in the Philippines. So this is where the possible occurrence of gas hydrates are. It's around the deep parts of the ocean and in very, very cold climates. We'll skip this slide. Next slide, please. Next. So in the Philippines, of course, the Palawan area, because it is already a working petroleum system. The shallow parts of Northwest Palawan are candidates for potential gas hydrates, and we have to study the Benham rice, although there is not much data to work on. Next. So are these gas hydrates produced commercially? At the moment, they are not produced commercially. However, there has been small-scale production, or are still in the experimental stage, and these are mostly government-funded. So who are funding them? So these are the Japanese, the Koreans, the Chinese, the Americans, and the Indians are working on developing gas hydrates. So as a matter of so that we can also promote our gas hydrates exploration, we might as well consider partnering with these countries who are doing a lot of work in this field, especially the Japanese. They have been studying gas hydrates since the 80s. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
China dun sa map mo?
Meron, sir.
Meron. Okay.
Yeah.
So can you go back to the last slide? I want to see who the countries are for gas hydrates. So India, Japan.
Yeah. So India, Korea, the United States. That is only in this Asian region, sir.
India, Korea, United States,
China and Japan.
China and Japan. Okay, thank you.
Although personally, I would like to partner with the Japanese because they've been working on gas hydrates for a longer time. And to
Any corporations in particular? Any corporations in Japan?
Jamstec, it's a government-funded agency, so
Okay.
it would be better if it's a government-to-government agreement.
Right. Is that constitutional to have a government-to-government when it comes to the marine wealth? There's no constitutional issue. Because the Malampay is it's not a government to government.
No, it's a
government to,
private enterprise.
yeah, it's a government to corporation. No?
Yeah.
especially at the level of the exploration stage.
All right, thank you. Mr. Savella, yung kanina ni-mention nyo itong gas hydrates can be a game changer. In your opinion, how long can that be
Realized? Well, if you will look at probably 20 to 30 years?
30 years pa. So next generation na talaga.
I think so.
Patay na
Most
tayo
likely.
lahat nun.
But I said the purpose of this DRD is for the future generation. It's still a long way to to develop this technology.
But
I mean, don't know.
technology can
change
fast.
But at the rate the technology is moving, I'm looking at 20 to 30 years.
20 to 30 years. And just to reiterate, no, this area, Benham Rise, is the quantities, we have vast amount of quantities of gas hydrates in that area.
We don't know yet. That's why we want to acquire data.
Acquire data, okay.
That is very, very crucial to the acquisition of data so that people like Mario and the others can interpret the data.
Right. We discussed that last time, and I think that's also one of the reasons why we're putting together a authority, no, to conduct surveys and exploration in that area. All right. Any more last comments or opinion? You can also react from the statements of our various resource persons kung meron ho kayong mga reaction. Any more? Sige po, ma'am. Dr. Aguilar, sige po.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. From the point of the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, we recognize the rich potential of the Benham Rise when it comes to biodiversity. But based on the mandate of the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, we would like to explore the Benham Rise for its mineral potential. Being located in the Circum-Pacific Ring of Fire, there's a big possibility of finding metallic minerals in the area, like manganese nodules, and even sulfides like gold and copper. And aside from the Philippines giving permits for marine scientific research, there's another international body that gives permission for exploration and research outside of national jurisdiction. It's the International Seabed Authority. And currently, they have given permits to 2 countries to explore the eastern part of the Philippines. They have given permit to China and Korea.
In your opinion, meron na ba ho, is there any country conducting underwater seabed mining as of this point? Yung technology na yun, available na ba?
As far as I know, they are conducting seabed mining in New Zealand.
Commercially, it's already viable.
Yes, sir.
How deep is that? How deep is that seabed mining?
I don't have an
Hindi po
idea
alam.
of how deep, but it's...
Pero meron na in New
Yes,
Zealand.
yes,
And that's the
po.
only country conducting seabed mining.
As of the present.
As of the most. All right. Sir,
Mr. Chair.
May I ask, sorry, just ask Dr. Aguilar, yung, where do they authorize? Is that a UN agency, the one you mentioned, that gives permits? No.
It's under...
It's a UN agency. And then, because given that we've got the extended EEZ, is it an extended EEZ of 350?
ECS, Extended Continental.
ECS, sorry. That's 350. So, sakop ba yun ng permit na bibigay nun? Or they give it after 350?
They're
Yeah.
giving permit outside of national jurisdiction.
Yeah, so the 350 is within our national jurisdiction. Just to clarify, no? That's within our national jurisdiction, yung 350. Tayo dapat ang mag-i-issue ng permit kung sakasakali.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Karandang, meron kayong comment?
Mr. Chair, just to answer your question earlier, if there has been an ongoing deep seabed mining activities. Yes, there are. The International Seabed Authority has entered into at least 26 exploration contracts with different countries, and mostly these are located in the North Pacific. We have here a member of the Legal and Technical Commission of that body, Dr. Mario Aurelio. I think he can give more information about the activities of the International Seabed Authority. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Dr. Mario, maybe you can give us a brief, I know we talked about this last time also, but for the information of everyone, so we will have some idea with this new concept of seabed mining.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the floor again. The International Seabed Authority is a United Nations organization that was set up in 1994 with so many ratifying countries. And its mandate, however, is the high seas area beyond national jurisdiction. And in addition to that, the mandate is only the seabed and its subsoil. The water column areas the mandate of the International Seabed Authority. Therefore, the mandate covers only resources, for example, metallic resources, and if any, but in very deep environment, there's very little possibility of petroleum resources, and the sedentary species that depend their existence on the seabed. Okay, for the question on, is there already an economic or mining activity? As far as the International Seabed Authority is concerned, there have been no permits yet granted to any contractor, they call it contractor, but sponsored by a member state. All the permits that have been granted are only for exploration. So we have to distinguish between the exploration stage and the exploitation stage. The exploration stage is only to understand what is there to be mined, the amount of which, and the technology that will be needed before you can go into the exploitation stage, which already also involves the economics of the activity, because there can be resources there, but the economics will not permit you to gain anything from it. So as far as the civil authority is concerned, there are no permits granted yet. There are some contractors that have requested for extension of exploration because they feel themselves that they are not ready yet to exploit. So as of the last meeting we had in February and March, that's the current state, Mr. Chair.
Chair, just one question to whoever can answer. What's the capacity of the BRP Velasquez to conduct some of these studies? Meron ba siyang capacity to do all those studies? Would you know? Seismic or otherwise?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The Velasquez used to be called Melville, SB Melville of the Oceanographic Institute, Scripps Oceanographic Institute attached with the University of California. So it does seismic profiling. It can do magnetics measurements, gravity measurements. It can also do grab sampling when you scratch the bottom of the seabed. And practically for marine scientific research of the seabed and the subsurface.
Siya doon sa Benham, actually.
Yeah.
Can...
Any more last comments, or anyone who wants to share their opinion or suggestion? Hearing none po, just a few administrative activities. For the record, I would like to insert the co-sponsorship speech of Senator Villanueva to the Senate Bill 312, and at the same time we would like to also request, we discussed this extensively, we would like to request DFA, Ma'am Montero, to request from the our Chinese counterparts as to the study conducted in that area. I think it was published in the website, but we don't know whether that's here in the Philippines or not, but those studies will tremendously help our local scientists in exploring and studying this area. So we would like to urge you to make that request.
Mr. Chair, in line with that, can we also ask for copies of the requests made for exploration in 2015?
Yes.
We ask for copies of those. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we will do that.
2015 and 2016 na rin kung meron.
Yes, sir.
No. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And once again, to the government agencies, please submit to us your respective position papers and to include suggestions or any comments. And thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much for your honesty, especially si Professor J. No? Parang naging estudyante niyo yata to si Senator Sani, kaya nakikinig ho sa inyo. But thank you very much for your participation. Good afternoon to everyone.